She called me and said, "Dad, you are turning 69 and we want to celebrate you." I booked the flight and landed at LAX, but what I saw next turned my world upside down. Instead of a party, I found a padlock on the gate and my son-in-law asking me where the pizza delivery was. That was the moment I knew my daughter was not the person I raised and that this trip was going to end in a war I never asked for. My name is Russell Hayes. I spent 40 years fixing turbine engines for Delta Airlines in Atlanta, so I know when something is about to break just by the sound of it. There is a specific hum a machine makes right before the gears strip and the whole system fails. I heard that sound the moment I stepped off the plane in Los Angeles, but I chose to ignore it because a father always wants to believe the best about his child. Before I tell you how I was forced to sleep in a storage shed while my family drank champagne on my dime, let me know where you are listening from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever felt invisible in a room full of people who owe you everything. The automatic doors at LAX slid open and the heat hit me first. It was dry and smelled of exhaust fumes and heated asphalt. I stood at the curb of the arrivals terminal clutching the handle of my old leather suitcase. It was the same bag I used when I flew to Germany for work back in the 90s. The leather was cracked and the zipper stuck if you pulled it too hard, but it was sturdy. I checked my watch. Jasmine said she would pick me up at 2:00 sharp. It was 2:45. I pulled my phone out of my windbreaker pocket. No missed calls, no texts. I dialed her number and it went straight to voicemail. Her voice sounded different on the recording, too professional and too polished, like she was selling me something. I sat on a concrete bench and watched the cars stream by. A young couple reunited right in front of me, hugging and crying, and for a second I felt a pang of jealousy so sharp it made my chest ache. I told myself she was just stuck in that famous LA traffic. Jasmine was a good girl. She was the girl who used to cry if she stepped on a snail in the garden. She would not leave her old man baking on a sidewalk in California. Another hour passed. The sun began to dip and the air turned cooler. I finally accepted the truth that I was not a priority. I opened the Uber app my neighbor showed me how to use. The ride to Beverly Hills cost $85. That was a week of groceries back home, but I pressed confirm. I was not going to start this trip by complaining. The driver was a young man who did not speak much, which suited me fine. I watched the city change through the window. We left the concrete gray of the airport and moved into wider streets lined with palm trees that looked too perfect to be real. We passed expensive cars and women walking dogs that looked like they cost more than my truck. Finally, we pulled up to the address. It was a massive white structure with floor-to-ceiling glass windows and a black iron gate that looked like it was guarding a fortress. I knew this house. I knew it because 5 years ago I emptied my retirement savings account to give Jasmine the down payment for it. She and Hunter said they just needed a little push to get started. That little push was $200,000. I looked at the house now and felt a surge of pride. My hard work built this. My grease-stained hands put a roof over my little girl's head. I got out and thanked the driver. He sped off, leaving me standing alone in front of the gate. I walked up to the keypad. I remembered the code Jasmine gave me years ago. 1955, my birth year. I punched it in. The light flashed red. I tried again. Red. I tried her birthday. Red. A cold feeling started in my stomach. It was the feeling of being locked out of your own life. I peered through the bars. The driveway was full of cars. Mercedes, Range Rovers, a bright red Porsche. Music was thumping from somewhere in the back of the house, a heavy bass line that rattled my teeth. They were home. They were having a party. And they had changed the gate code without telling me. I stood there for 10 minutes debating whether to yell or to just wait. Then a delivery van pulled up. It was a catering truck. The driver hopped out and punched in a code. 4 zeros. Simple. Stupid. The gate swung open and I slipped in behind the truck, dragging my suitcase. The wheels clattered loudly on the paver stones, but the music was so loud no one heard me. I walked up the long driveway past the fountain that was not running. The water looked green and stagnant. For a house this expensive, the maintenance was slipping. That was the first crack in the engine I noticed. I followed the sound of the music around to the back. The backyard was like something out of a magazine. There was an infinity pool that seemed to drop off the edge of the hill, and about 30 people were mingling around it. They were all young and they were all white. The men wore loafers with no socks, and the women wore dresses that looked like slips. Waiters were walking around with trays of drinks. I stood by the corner of the house feeling suddenly very large and very clumsy in my thick Atlanta clothes. My windbreaker felt heavy. My boots felt dirty. Then I saw him. Hunter, my son-in-law. He was standing by the pool bar laughing loudly at something a blonde woman said. He was wearing a white linen suit and holding a cigar. He looked successful. He looked rich. He looked like he owned the world. I took a deep breath and stepped into the sunlight. "Hunter," I called out. My voice was raspy from the flight. He turned around. For a second, his eyes scanned right over me like I was part of the landscaping. Then he squinted. He did not smile. He did not rush over to hug me. He looked confused, and then he looked annoyed. He walked over to me, but he stopped 3 feet away. He did not offer his hand. "Hey, buddy," he said loud enough for the people nearby to hear. "The ice is supposed to go to the wet bar on the lower level. Who let you in the front gate?" I froze. My grip tightened on my suitcase handle. He thought I was the ice delivery man. Or maybe he wished I was. "Hunter, it is me." "Russell," I said, keeping my voice steady. His eyes widened. There was a flicker of recognition, and then a flicker of panic. He looked quickly over his shoulder at his guests to see if anyone was watching. Then he forced a smile that looked like it hurt his face. "Oh, Russell, wow, you are here." He did not call me Dad. He did not call me Mr. Hayes. Just Russell. And the way he said it sounded like a curse word. "You are early," he said, stepping closer, not to embrace me, but to block me from the view of the party. "We thought your flight landed tonight." "I landed 3 hours ago," I said. "I called Jasmine." "Yeah, she is busy inside, hosting duties, you know." "Look, Russell, we are in the middle of a thing here. Important clients, big investors." He looked at my windbreaker and then at my suitcase. He wrinkled his nose slightly. "Let's get you settled. But listen, we have a small situation. The guest room in the main house. We are having the carpets chemically treated. Some mold issue. Very toxic. You cannot stay in there." He was lying. I knew a lie when I heard one. A man who lies about an engine makes a specific hesitation before he speaks. Hunter just did that. "So where am I sleeping?" I asked. Hunter pointed a thumb over his shoulder towards the back of the property. Behind the pool and down a small hill there was a small structure. It used to be a shed for pool equipment, but they put a window in it. "The pool house," he said. "It is private. You will like it. It is quiet." Just then, the glass door of the main house slid open, and Jasmine stepped out. She was wearing a silver dress that shimmered in the sun. She looked beautiful. She looked like a movie star. My heart swelled for a second until she saw me. Her smile dropped. Her shoulders stiffened. She did not run to me. She walked quickly over her heels, clicking on the stone. She glanced at Hunter and then at the guests. "Dad," she hissed in a whisper, "you are here." She gave me a hug, but her body did not touch mine. It was an air hug, a Hollywood hug. She pulled away instantly. "Why didn't you call?" she asked. "I did call. I have been at the airport for hours." "Oh." My phone was on Do Not Disturb. She looked at my suitcase. "Hunter, did you tell him about the room?" she asked her husband. "Yeah, I was just taking him down there." "Okay, good. Dad, you go get washed up. You must be tired. We have a lot of people here right now, so maybe just rest for a while. We will come get you when things calm down." She was ashamed of me. It hit me harder than the heat. My own daughter, the girl I carried on my shoulders at the zoo, the girl whose college tuition I paid by working double shifts, was ashamed to be seen with me in front of her fancy friends. I looked at her. I looked at Hunter, who was already turning back to his party. "Fine," I said. "Show me where to go." Hunter led me down the stone steps, away from the music, away from the food, away from the laughter. We reached the pool house. He unlocked the door and pushed it open. The air inside was stale and hot. It smelled of chlorine and old towels. There was a pull-out couch and a small mini-fridge. No bathroom. I would have to use the outdoor shower by the pool. "There you go, Russell. Cozy, right?" Hunter said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Try to keep the noise down, okay? These investors are very particular." He closed the door before I could answer. I stood in the middle of the room. The bass from the music vibrated the thin walls. Through the small window I could see them up there. I saw Hunter wrap his arm around Jasmine's waist. I saw them laughing. I saw a waiter hand them champagne. I sat down on the lumpy couch and opened my suitcase. I took out the framed photo of my wife Esther. I set it on the dusty side table. "Esther," I whispered, "we have a problem." I was hungry, I was tired, and I was angry. But as I sat there listening to the party I was not invited to, I noticed something else. The hum of the pool pump outside. It was making a grinding noise, a high-pitched whine that meant the bearings were shot, and the lights around the pool were flickering in a rhythm that meant the voltage was unstable. This house looked perfect from the outside, but underneath it was falling apart. And looking at my son-in-law and daughter up there, I realized they were just like this house, shiny on the surface but broken deep down. They thought they could lock me in a shed. They thought I was just a tired old man from Atlanta who would sign whatever papers they put in front of him. But they forgot one thing. I fix things for a living. And before I leave this city, I am going to fix this mess, even if I have to take the whole engine apart, piece by piece. I took off my boots and lay back on the couch. I did not unpack. I had a feeling I would not be staying long, or maybe I would be staying longer than they ever imagined. The sun went down and the shadows stretched across the floor of the pool house. Up on the hill, the party got louder. I closed my eyes, but I did not sleep. I was listening, waiting for the engine to fail. The sun was barely up when the pounding started. It was a heavy and impatient fist against the thin door of the pool house. I groaned and rolled over on the lumpy pull-out couch. My back was stiff from the thin mattress and the damp air of the room had settled into my joints. I looked at my watch on the floor. It was 6 a.m. I had only been asleep for 5 hours. I sat up and rubbed my face. The pounding came again, louder this time. "Russell, are you in there? Open up." It was Hunter. He did not call me Dad. He did not ask if I was awake. He just demanded my presence like I was an employee who was late for a shift. I pulled on my pants and opened the door. The morning air was cool and misty. Hunter was standing there in a silk robe holding a cup of steaming coffee. He did not offer me any. "We have a problem," he said without saying good morning. "The pool heater is dead. The generator is making a weird noise and the water is cold. The investors are coming for lunch at noon and I cannot have a cold pool." I looked at him. I looked. His eyes were clear and bright. He had slept in a king-size bed with high thread count sheets while I slept next to the pool chemicals. "Call a repairman," I said, my voice thick with sleep. "Come on, Russell," he said, taking a sip of his coffee. "You are a mechanic. You fix things. That is what you do. Why should I pay some guy $200 an hour when you are right here? Besides, it gives you something to do. You look bored." He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. There was something in his tone that I had heard 1,000 times before in my life. It was the tone of a man who sees a black face and assumes manual labor. He did not see a retired aviation technician who had signed off on the safety of Boeing 747s. He saw a handyman. He saw free labor. I could have said no. I could have gone back inside and locked the door. But I looked past him at the main house. I saw the light on in the kitchen window where Jasmine was probably making breakfast. I wanted to be helpful. I wanted to prove that I was useful, not a burden. "Fine," I said. "Let me get my tools." I did not have my full tool chest with me, but I always traveled with a small kit. A wrench, a multimeter, a screwdriver set. It was a habit from the old days. You never knew when something would break. I walked over to the pool equipment shed behind the nice landscaping. The generator was a massive, expensive unit. It was top-of-the-line German engineering, but it was covered in dust and spiderwebs. They bought the best, but they treated it like trash. Hunter stood behind me, watching while checking emails on his phone. "Can you fix it?" he asked impatiently. I ignored him. I knelt down on the concrete and listened. The engine was trying to turn over, but it was choking. I placed my hand on the casing. I could feel the vibration. It was a rhythm I knew. It was not a mechanical failure. It was an electrical blockage. I opened the panel. The wiring was a mess. Whoever installed this did a rush job. The solenoid was burned out because the voltage regulator was set too high. It was a rookie mistake. I took out my multimeter and tested the leads. The numbers jumped around. "Well," Hunter asked, "is it broken?" "It is not broken," I said quietly. "It was abused. You have been running it too hot. Just fix it, Russell. I do not need a lecture on machine ethics." I gritted my teeth. I took out a small piece of copper wire from my kit. I could bypass the regulator temporarily to get the heater running, but it needed a new part. I worked quickly. My hands moved with a memory of their own. Strip the wire, twist the connection, secure the bypass. I flipped the switch. The generator coughed once, then roared to life. The hum was steady and strong. There I said, wiping grease onto my pants because I did not have a rag. "It is working, but you need to order a new solenoid or it will burn out again in a week." Hunter did not say thank you. He just nodded and looked at the pool water starting to bubble. Great, he said, turning to walk away. Try to clean up around here. It looks messy. And Russell, change your shirt before lunch. You look like a grease monkey. He walked back up the stone path, his silk robe flowing behind him. I stood there alone with the noise of the machine. I looked at my hands. They were stained black with oil. I felt a familiar heat rising in my chest. It was not shame. It was rage. But I swallowed it down. I had a plan. I went back to the pool house and scrubbed my hands until they were raw. I put on a clean polo shirt and a pair of slacks. I looked at myself in the small mirror. I looked respectable. I looked like a father. At noon, the guests started arriving. I walked up to the main patio. The table was set with white linen and crystal glasses. There were bottles of wine that cost more than my monthly pension check. Jasmine was there wearing a white dress that matched the decor. She looked nervous. When she saw me, she gave a tight smile. "Hi, Dad," she said quickly. "You look nice." She did not introduce me to anyone. She turned back to a woman with blonde hair and continued talking about yoga retreats in Bali. I stood by the edge of the patio, unsure of where to sit. Hunter was at the head of the table, pouring wine for a man in a blue suit. The man looked important. "Hunter," I said, stepping forward. The conversation stopped. Everyone looked at me. Hunter looked up. For a second, he looked annoyed that I had interrupted. Then he put on his fake smile. "Ah, everyone. This is Russell," he said. He paused. The silence stretched out. He did not say, "This is my father-in-law." He did not say, "This is Jasmine's dad. He is an old family acquaintance from the South." Hunter said smoothly. "He is helping us out with some maintenance on the property for a few days. Russell is a wizard with machines." The man in the blue suit looked me up and down. He saw an old black man with rough hands standing next to the help. "Good to find good help these days," the man said dismissively. "My gardener just quit. Hard to find people who want to work." He turned back to his wine. I felt the blood drain from my face. My heart hammered against my ribs. Acquaintance. Maintenance. Help. I looked at Jasmine. She was staring at her salad. She did not say anything. She did not correct them. She let her husband reduce her father to a servant in front of strangers to protect their image. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. I opened my mouth to speak, to tell them that I paid the down payment on the floor they were standing on, but then I stopped. I saw Hunter smirk. He enjoyed this. He enjoyed putting me in my place. If I yelled now, I would just be the angry old man. I would be the problem. I forced my face to remain neutral. I nodded slowly. "Enjoy your lunch," I said. I turned and walked away, but I did not go back to the pool house. I went into the kitchen through the side door. The caterers were busy prepping the next course. No one paid attention to me. I walked over to the marble island where Hunter sat every morning to make his calls. It was his command center. I knew he would bring the investors in here later for brandy and cigars. That was his pattern. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out a small black device. It was a digital voice recorder I used to use to record engine diagnostics. It was small, powerful, and the battery lasted for 48 hours. I knelt down, pretending to tie my shoe. My hand reached under the lip of the heavy marble table. There was a metal bracket there. I had checked it yesterday. I pressed the recorder against the metal. The magnet clicked softly. It was hidden in the shadows, completely invisible unless you were on your hands and knees. I stood up. I could hear the laughter from the patio. They were laughing at a joke the man in the blue suit made, probably about finding good help. Laugh now, I thought. I walked out of the kitchen and down the path to my shed. The humiliation burned in my stomach like acid. But as I sat on my lumpy couch and put on my headphones to test the signal, I felt a cold calm settle over me. They treated me like the help. Fine. The help sees everything. The help hears everything. And the help is the one who takes out the trash. I pressed the record button on my receiver. The red light blinked steady and strong. I was not just a mechanic anymore. I was a spy in my own family, and I was going to catch every word they said. I stood in front of the small mirror in the pool house and adjusted my tie. It was a navy blue clip-on tie that I had bought at Sears 20 years ago for my deacon ordination at church. The suit was older than that. It was a double-breasted gray polyester blend that smelled faintly of mothballs and cedar chips. It was thick and heavy and completely wrong for the California heat, but it was the best thing I owned. A man does not show up to his own birthday party in work boots. I brushed a piece of lint off the lapel and took a deep breath. 69 years old. I looked at the face in the mirror. The lines were deeper and the hair was grayer, but the eyes were the same. They were the eyes of a man who worked hard and paid his debts. I walked out of the pool house and up the stone path toward the main building. The sun was beginning to set, casting long orange shadows across the lawn. The music had changed from the thumping bass of the afternoon to something smoother, something jazz-like. I appreciated that. Maybe Jasmine remembered that I liked jazz. Maybe this whole day had just been a misunderstanding. Maybe they were stressed about the house repairs, and now that the evening was here, they would finally welcome me properly. I reached the top of the stairs and stopped. The patio had been transformed. There were tall tables draped in white silk and floral arrangements that looked like they cost more than my first car. Waiters circulated with silver trays of hors d'oeuvres. But it was not the decorations that made my blood run cold. It was the banner hanging above the sliding glass doors. It was 10 feet long and printed in bold silver letters. It did not say "Happy Birthday, Russell." It did not say "Welcome, Dad." It read "Skyline Project Launch, Investing in the Future." I stood there feeling the heavy polyester suit sticking to my back, my hands clenched at my sides. This was not a birthday party. This was a sales pitch, and I was not the guest of honor. I was a prop. I looked around the crowd. The guests were different now. The young people in swimsuits were gone. In their place were older men in tailored suits and women wearing jewelry that sparkled aggressively under the patio lights. They held glasses of champagne and spoke in hushed, serious tones. They looked like sharks circling a fishing boat. "Russell, there you are." It was Hunter. He appeared at my elbow, grabbing my arm with a grip that was too tight to be friendly. He was wearing a dark blue suit that fit him perfectly. He looked me up and down, and his smile faltered for a fraction of a second when he saw my gray polyester. "Nice suit," he said, but his voice dripped with sarcasm. "Very vintage, very authentic." "Where is Jasmine?" I asked. My voice was low and hard. "She is inside greeting the VIPs," Hunter said, waving his hand dismissively. "Listen, Russell, we need to talk before you go in there. This is a big night for us, for the family." He steered me away from the main crowd toward a quiet corner near the outdoor fireplace. He stood close to me, invading my personal space. He smelled of expensive cologne and desperation. "Here is the situation," Hunter said, lowering his voice. "These people are investors. High-level capital. They are looking to back the Skyline project. That is my new architectural development. It is going to change the city." I looked at him. I knew about the Skyline project because Jasmine had mentioned it on the phone. It was a fantasy, a massive complex of luxury condos that Hunter wanted to build, but he did not have the land and he did not have the permits. "So what does this have to do with me?" I asked. Hunter licked his lips. It was a nervous tick. "I told them I have secured a key partnership," he said. "A land developer from Atlanta. Someone with old money and deep roots in the South. Someone who is providing the initial equity for the land acquisition." He stared at me. I stared back. The silence stretched between us. "You want me to lie," I said. No, not lie," Hunter said quickly. "We are just enhancing the truth. You do own land in Atlanta, right? You own that shop on MLK Boulevard. That is prime real estate. Gentrification is hitting that area hard. That land is worth a fortune." "It is an engine repair shop, Hunter," I said. "It is where I fixed turbines for 40 years. It is covered in grease and surrounded by a chain-link fence. To these people, it is a strategic asset," Hunter insisted. "Look, Russell, just play along. When I introduce you, just nod, shake their hands, smile. Tell them you believe in my vision. Do not mention the turbines. Do not mention the grease. You are a silent partner. Can you do that?" "Why should I asked. "It is my birthday." Hunter's face hardened. The mask slipped. "Because your daughter lives in this house," he hissed. "Because if this funding does not come through by Monday, the bank takes everything. The cars, the furniture, this patio you are standing on. Do you want to see Jasmine on the street? Do you want to be the reason she fails?" He knew exactly where to hit me. He knew I would walk through fire for that girl. He was holding her hostage with his own incompetence. "Fine," I said. "I will not say anything. But I am not lying for you." Hunter patted my shoulder again. His smile returned instantly, fake and bright. "That is all I ask. You are a good man, Russell. A real team player." He grabbed my elbow again and pulled me into the center of the crowd. The noise of the party washed over me. I felt like I was drowning. "Everyone, Can I have your attention, please? Hunter called out, raising his glass. The conversation died down, heads turned, 50 pairs of eyes focused on us. I felt the sweat trickling down my back under the heavy suit. I want to introduce a very special guest, Hunter announced. The man who made all of this possible. My father-in-law and our primary strategic partner from Atlanta, Mr. Russell Hayes. Applause rippled through the crowd. It was polite applause, but I could see the calculation in their eyes. They were sizing me up. They looked at my old suit and my wide tie, and they did not see a poor man. They saw an eccentric millionaire. They saw exactly what Hunter wanted them to see. A man stepped forward. He was tall with silver hair and a face that looked like it was carved out of granite. He extended a manicured hand. Mr. Hayes. It is an honor, the man said. I am Franklin Vance. Hunter has told me a lot about your holdings in the South. I shook his hand. His grip was dry and firm. Mr. Vance, I said simply. Hunter tells me you are looking to liquidate some of your commercial properties to back this venture, Vance said. That is a bold move. The Atlanta market is hot right now. I felt Hunter stiffen beside me. He was terrified I would speak. I looked at Vance. I looked at the hungry look in his eyes. These people did not care about families or birthdays. They cared about profit. I believe in land, I said carefully. They are not making any more of it. Vance laughed, a loud booming laugh that made others turn and smile. A man of few words, Vance said. I like that. Wisdom. You know, Mr. Hayes, I was skeptical when Hunter pitched this. But seeing you here, seeing the generational wealth backing this, it gives me confidence. Generational wealth. The phrase tasted like bile in my mouth. My wealth was a pension fund and a life insurance policy from my wife. My wealth was calloused hands and a bad back. Just then I saw Jasmine. She was standing by the sliding glass doors holding a tray of hors d'oeuvres. She was not mingling. She was working. She looked tired. Her eyes met mine across the crowd. She looked terrified. She gave a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of her head. I did not know if she was telling me to stop or begging me to help. Hunter jumped in. Russell is very conservative with his investments, Hunter said smoothly. He does not put his name on anything unless he is 100% sure it is a winner. That is right, I said, looking directly at Hunter. I checked the engine thoroughly before I let the plane take off. If there is a crack in the system, I ground the flight. Hunter's smile froze. He laughed nervously. He loves his aviation metaphors, Hunter said. Vance looked at me with renewed interest. You have an aviation background, he asked. I was a master mechanic for 40 years, I said loud enough for the circle around us to hear. I fixed things that other people broke. I learned that you cannot paint over a rusted bolt and expect it to hold. Eventually the metal shears and the whole thing comes down. The smile on Vance's face faded slightly. He looked at Hunter, then back at me. An interesting philosophy, Vance said. It is not a philosophy, I said. It is physics. Hunter gripped my arm so hard it hurt. Well, let us get Mr. Hayes a drink, Hunter said, pulling me away. He has had a long flight. He dragged me toward the bar, his fingernails digging into my bicep through the cheap polyester. What are you doing? He whispered furiously in my ear. You are going to blow this. I am telling the truth, I whispered back. You can paint this party however you want, Hunter, but rust is rust. Hunter shoved a glass of whiskey into my hand. His face was red. Just drink this and shut up, he hissed. Stand there and look rich. That is your only job. He turned his back on me and dove back into the crowd to do damage control with Vance. I stood alone by the bar holding a glass of crystal clear liquor that I did not want. I looked around the party. I saw the fake smiles. I saw the greedy eyes. I saw my daughter serving food in her own house to people who would repossess her furniture next week. I took a sip of the whiskey. It burned going down. Happy birthday, Russell, I whispered to myself. I reached into my pocket and touched the cold metal of the voice recorder. It was still running. It was catching every lie Hunter told, every promise he made that he could not keep. I watched him across the patio. He was laughing with Vance, clapping him on the back, acting like the king of the world. He did not know that the engine was already smoking. He did not know that the mechanic was not here to join the crew. The mechanic was here to take apart the plane. I set the drink down on the bar. I did not belong in this world of silk and lies. I belonged in the shop where things made sense. But as I watched Hunter point back at me and wink at another investor, I realized I had one more job to do before I retired for good. I walked over to the buffet table. I was hungry. I picked up a plate. The food was tiny and fancy. Smoked salmon on crackers, caviar on toast points. There was no soul in it. A waiter walked by, a young black man in a white uniform. He looked at me and nodded. "Happy birthday, sir," he whispered as he passed. I froze. "How did you know I asked?" "Your daughter, sir," the waiter said. "She told the kitchen staff to put a candle on a cupcake for you later. Said to keep it in the back." My chest tightened. Jasmine. She remembered. But she was too afraid of her husband to bring it out. She hid my birthday in the back of the kitchen, just like she hid me in the pool house. That small kindness hurt more than the cruelty. It showed me how broken she really was. She was trying to love me in the dark while her husband sold me out in the light. I ate the salmon cracker. It tasted like nothing. I looked at Hunter again. The time for fixing was over. It was time to start dismantling. I adjusted my clip-on tie, smoothed my polyester suit, and walked straight toward the group of investors. If they wanted a southern land baron, I would give them one. But they were not going to like what he had to say when the time was right. The party eventually died down around midnight. I watched from the small window of the pool house as the last of the expensive cars rolled down the driveway. The caterers packed up the silver trays and the crystal glasses. The lights around the pool clicked off, leaving the water looking like a sheet of black oil. I sat on the edge of the pull-out couch, still wearing my gray polyester suit. I had taken off the clip-on tie, but I could not bring myself to take off the jacket yet. It felt like armor, and tonight I needed armor. My hands were shaking slightly, not from the cold, though the pool house was freezing now that the sun was gone. They were shaking from the adrenaline. It was the same feeling I used to get when a pilot would report a vibration in the number 2 engine at 30,000 feet. You know something is wrong. You know there is a fracture somewhere in the metal. You just have to find it before the whole thing comes apart. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small black voice recorder. It felt heavy in my palm, heavier than it should be. This tiny piece of plastic held the truth. It held the answer to why my daughter looked so scared and why my son-in-law looked so desperate. I placed the recorder on the small, wobbly table next to the picture of my wife, Esther. I looked at her face in the photograph. She was smiling that smile she used to give me when I came home with grease under my fingernails. She always told me that my hands were dirty so our family could be clean. "Esther," I whispered to the empty room, "I hope I am wrong. Lord, I hope I am wrong about this." I plugged in the headphones. I did not want to play it out loud. I did not want the walls to hear what I was about to hear. I put the buds in my ears and pressed play. At first there was just the sound of silverware clinking on china, the background noise of the kitchen. I heard the hum of the refrigerator. I heard water running. The audio quality was crisp. I had placed the device right under the spot where Hunter liked to sit. Then I heard footsteps. Heavy, confident footsteps. "Get the good brandy out." Hunter's voice cut through the static. "The 25-year-old bottle. We need to celebrate." I heard the sound of a cork popping and liquid pouring into a glass. "You think he bought it?" asked another voice. It was Vance, the man with the silver hair and the granite face. Hook, line, and sinker Hunter laughed. The sound of his laugh made my stomach turn. It was not the laugh of a happy man. It was the laugh of a predator. "He is a simple man," Hunter continued. "Did you see that suit? He has no idea what he is sitting on. That land in Atlanta is just a dirty old shop to him. He thinks he is holding on to sentimental junk. He does not realize he is sitting on a gold mine." I closed my eyes. Simple. He called me simple. I, who could strip a turbine engine blindfolded and put it back together without a single bolt left over. But the paperwork, Vance asked. "Is it ready?" "It is drawn up," Hunter said. I slipped the power of attorney into a stack of immigration forms. He thinks he is signing papers to move his residency here to California so he can be closer to his grandkids. He does not even read what he signs. He trusts Jasmine too much. There was a pause. I held my breath. I waited for Jasmine's voice. I waited for my daughter to speak up, to defend me, to say that her father was not a fool. But there was only silence. "And what happens after he signs?" Vance asked. "You cannot have him living here, Hunter. He does not exactly fit the brand image we are trying to sell to the board." I heard the clink of glass on marble. "Don't worry about that," Hunter said. His voice dropped lower, conspiratorial and cruel. "Once I have control of the assets, we move him. I found a place out in the Mojave Desert. It is a state-funded facility. Very basic. Cheap. It is perfect for him. The Mojave Vance repeated. That is 4 hours away. Out of sight, out of mind, Hunter said. He is old. He will be confused. We will tell him it is a specialized facility for his health. He will believe whatever Jasmine tells him. The old black man will just fade away in the desert, and we will use the $3 million from the Atlanta sale to break ground on Skyline. It is a victimless crime, really. He gets care, we get the capital. I stopped the tape. I sat there in the silence of the pool house. The only sound was my own breathing, which was shallow and ragged. The Mojave Desert, a cheap state facility. They were not just planning to steal my land, they were planning to discard me. They were going to take the legacy I built with 40 years of sweat and blood and trade it for a glass condo tower. And then they were going to ship me off to die alone in the sand 4 hours away from the only family I had left. I looked at my hands. They were trembling. I clenched them into fists until the knuckles turned the color of ash. I did not scream. I did not throw the recorder against the wall. That is what a weak man would do. That is what a victim would do. I looked at Esther's picture again. Do you hear that, Esther? I asked her. Do you hear what they think of us? I remembered the day I bought that land in Atlanta. It was 1982. We had saved every penny for 5 years. We ate beans and rice. We drove a car with no air conditioning in the Georgia summer. When I signed the deed, Esther cried. She knelt down and kissed the dirt. She said, Russell, this is ours. No one can take this from us. This is for our children and our children's children. She died believing that. She died believing we had built a fortress that would protect our daughter. But we built the fortress for a daughter who opened the gates to the enemy. Jasmine was in the room. I knew she was. I did not hear her voice on the tape, but silence is an answer too. Her silence was her signature on my death warrant. She chose her husband's greed over her father's life. A cold calm washed over me. It started in my chest and spread to my fingertips. It was the same calm I felt when I had to make a critical decision on the tarmac with 100 passengers waiting on board. The panic was gone. The hurt was gone. There was only the problem and the solution. The problem was a catastrophic mechanical failure in the family unit. The structural integrity was compromised beyond repair. The solution was a total teardown. I took the headphones out and carefully wound the cord. I placed the recorder back in my pocket. I stood up and took off the gray suit jacket. I folded it neatly and laid it on the back of the chair. I unclipped the blue tie and rolled it up. I walked over to my suitcase and pulled out my work clothes, my denim shirt, my heavy canvas pants, my steel-toed boots. I dressed slowly. I buttoned the shirt all the way to the top. I laced the boots tight. I was not dressing for a party anymore. I was dressing for work. I walked to the window and looked up at the main house. The lights were off. They were sleeping. Hunter was probably dreaming of his millions. Jasmine was probably dreaming of her guilt, or maybe she had convinced herself she was doing the right thing. Sleep well, I thought. Sleep while you can. Because tomorrow the old black man you want to send to the desert is going to wake up, and he is not going to sign your papers. He is not going to be confused. Hunter thought I was simple. He thought I was a relic. He saw gray hair and rough hands, and he assumed I was stupid. That was his mistake. That was the crack in his fuselage. He forgot that before you can build a skyline, you have to have a foundation. And he was standing on my foundation. I sat back down on the couch, but I did not lie down. I picked up my small toolkit. I took out a screwdriver and tested the weight of it in my hand. I am not a victim, I said aloud. I am a mechanic, and I have a lot of work to do. I spent the rest of the night awake. I went through every memory of the last 2 days, every insult, every lie, every forced smile. I cataloged them like parts in an inventory. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I realized then that the trip to Los Angeles was not a birthday celebration. It was a salvage mission. I was here to salvage what was left of my dignity and my wife's legacy. When the sun began to creep over the horizon, turning the sky a bruised purple, I was ready. I washed my face with cold water. I looked in the mirror one last time. The sadness in my eyes was gone. It was replaced by something harder, something colder. I opened the door of the pool house and stepped out into the morning air. The generator I fixed yesterday was humming smoothly. The pool water was warm and clear. "Fit your heater." "Hunter," I whispered, "now I am going to fix you." I walked up the stone path toward the house. My boots clicked rhythmically on the pavers. It sounded like a countdown. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. I was walking into the lion's den, but the lions were asleep and I was the one holding the keys. The game had changed. They wanted the simple old man from Atlanta. Fine. I would give them exactly what they wanted. I would play the part. I would be the senile old fool. I would be the compliant father-in-law. I would let them think they had won. I would let them load the plane with all their hopes and dreams. I would let them taxi to the runway. I would let them throttle up. And just when they reached the point of no return, I would pull the pin. I reached the back door of the kitchen. It was unlocked. I stepped inside. The smell of stale champagne and expensive perfume still lingered in the air. I walked to the coffee machine and started a pot. I would have coffee ready for them when they woke up. I would be the perfect house guest. The recording in my pocket felt warm against my leg. It was my weapon. But I would not use it yet. A good mechanic knows that timing is everything. You do not strike until the bolt is under maximum tension. That is when it snaps the cleanest. I poured a cup of coffee and watched the sunrise over Beverly Hills. It was beautiful. It was expensive. It was fake. "Welcome to the first day of the rest of your life, Russell," I said to the empty kitchen. "Make it count." The smell of bacon woke me up before the sun did. It was a thick, greasy smell that usually meant a good Sunday morning back in Atlanta. But here in Beverly Hills, it smelled like a bribe. I lay on the pull-out couch for a moment, staring at the ceiling of the pool house. My back ached. My neck was stiff. But my mind was sharp. I replayed the recording from last night in my head. The Mojave Desert, a cheap state facility. Out of sight, out of mind. I sat up and rubbed my face. Today was the day I had to start acting. If Hunter wanted a senile old man, I would give him an Oscar-winning performance. I put on my reading glasses even though I did not really need them. I found an old pair of hands shaking slightly as I buttoned my shirt. I practiced the tremor in the mirror. It had to look real. It had to look like the nerves in my hands were misfiring just like an electrical short in a cockpit display. I walked up to the main house. The sliding glass door was open. Hunter was sitting at the head of the marble dining table wearing a crisp white polo shirt. He looked like he had just stepped out of a country club brochure. Jasmine was at the stove flipping pancakes. She did not look at me when I walked in. Her shoulders were hunched tight. "Good morning, Russell," Hunter boomed. His voice was too loud, too cheerful. It grated on my ears like metal on metal. I shuffled my feet a little, dragging my left boot on the floor. I let my shoulders slump. "Morning," I mumbled. Sit down," Hunter said, pulling out a chair for me. "Jasmine made your favorite, pancakes and bacon. We want to treat you right today. After the big success of the party last night, we figured we owe you a real breakfast." I sat down. The table was set with heavy silverware and linen napkins. There was a fresh pot of coffee steaming in a silver carafe. Jasmine brought a plate over. She set it down in front of me, but she still would not meet my eyes. "Here you go, Dad," she said softly. "Blueberry. Just how you like them." "Thank you, baby girl," I said. I looked at her. I wanted her to look at me. I wanted to see if there was any of my daughter left in there, or if she was completely gone. She glanced up for a second and I saw it. Guilt. It was swimming in her eyes like oil on water. She knew what was coming. She knew about the papers. "Eat up," Hunter said. "We have a big day. A lot of administrative stuff to get through so we can just relax for the rest of your trip." I picked up my fork. I let my hand shake. The fork clattered against the plate. Hunter watched me. I saw a flash of satisfaction in his eyes. He liked seeing me weak. He liked seeing the mechanic who used to lift engine blocks struggling to lift a piece of bacon. We ate in silence for a few minutes. The food tasted like ash in my mouth. I forced myself to swallow. I needed the energy. So Russell Hunter started wiping his mouth with a napkin. I was talking to Jasmine. "We are so worried about you being all alone in Atlanta. The neighborhood is changing. It is not safe for a man of your age." I chewed slowly. "It is the same neighborhood it has always been," I said. Hunter shook his head. "Statistics say otherwise. And honestly, Russell, you are not getting any younger. We want you here. We want you close to family. We want to take care of you." I looked at Jasmine. She was staring at her orange juice. "Is that right, Jasmine?" I asked. "You want to take care of me?" She nodded quickly, too quickly. "Yes, Dad. We just want what is best for you. Hunter reached under the table and pulled out a thick stack of papers. It was at least an inch thick, held together with a heavy binder clip. He set it down on the table with a thud. So I had my legal team draw up some paperwork, Hunter said casually. It is mostly just boring immigration stuff. Transferring your residency to California, getting you on our health insurance plan, setting up a local bank account so we can help you manage your bills. You know, standard stuff. He pushed the stack toward me. I looked at the papers. Standard stuff. That was the lie. I wiped my hands on my napkin and reached for the stack. I put on my reading glasses and peered over the rims. That is a lot of paper for a bank account, I said. California bureaucracy. Hunter laughed. You know how it is. They need 3 copies of everything. Just sign where the sticky notes are and we can get this filed today. Then we can go down to the Santa Monica Pier. Have a nice afternoon. He handed me a pen, an expensive Mont Blanc pen. It felt heavy and cold. I did not take the pen. Instead, I opened the folder. I need to read it first, I said. Hunter's smile tightened at the corners. Russell, it is legal jargon. It is boring. You do not need to waste your morning reading fine print. I already had my lawyers review it. It is airtight. I am sure it is, I said. But Esther always told me never sign anything you have not read, even if it takes all day. I licked my thumb and turned the first page. It was a residency application. Harmless. I turned the next page. A health insurance waiver. Harmless. Hunter was tapping his foot under the table. Tap, tap, tap. He was impatient. The engine was running hot. I turned 10 more pages, then 20. I read slowly, moving my lips like I was having trouble understanding the words. What does this mean? I asked, pointing to a paragraph about liability. It just means if you trip on the sidewalk, the city pays for it, Hunter said quickly. Keep going, Russell. The signature page is at the back. I kept turning, and then I found it. Buried in the middle of the stack on page 42. General durable power of attorney. The text was dense, but the meaning was clear. It granted Hunter Vance full control over all my assets, real estate, banking, and medical decisions. It gave him the right to sell property without my consent. It gave him the right to commit me to a medical facility if he deemed me incapacitated. It was the death warrant. I felt a surge of rage so hot it almost made me dizzy. I wanted to grab the steak knife and pin his hand to the table. But I breathed, in and out. I was a pilot in a storm. I had to land the plane. I stared at the page. What is this one? I asked. Hunter leaned over, looking at where my finger was pointing. Oh, that, he said casually. That is just for emergencies. Like if you have a heart attack and cannot talk to the doctors. It lets Jasmine and me make sure you get the best care. It is standard, Russell. Everyone has one. I looked at him. He was lying to my face without blinking. He was betting on my ignorance. I see, I said. I reached for my coffee cup with my right hand. My left hand was still holding the page open. I need some coffee, I said. My eyes are tired. I lifted the cup. It was full. It was hot. Black coffee, no sugar. I watched Hunter. He was leaning forward, his eyes fixed on the pen sitting on the table, waiting for me to pick it up. He was so close. He could taste the money. I let my hand spasm. It was a controlled movement, a precise release of the muscles in my wrist. The cup tipped. Oh no, I cried out. The hot black liquid surged out of the cup like a tidal wave. It splashed across the marble table. It hit the stack of papers. It soaked into the expensive linen tablecloth. Hunter jumped back his chair, scraping loudly against the floor. Jesus Christ, Russell, he yelled. The coffee spread fast. It turned the white papers brown. It pooled around the power of attorney document, soaking it completely. I dropped the cup. It shattered on the floor. I am sorry. I am so sorry, I stammered, standing up and knocking my knee against the table. I am just so clumsy. My hands, they are not working right today. Hunter looked at the mess. His face was red. For a second, the mask dropped completely. He looked at me with pure hatred. You stupid old man, he hissed. Do you know how much legal time went into those drafts? Jasmine stood up. Hunter, stop it, she said. It was an accident. She grabbed a towel and started blotting the table. Hunter ran his hands through his hair. He was pacing. Great. Just great. Now we have to print them all over again. And the lawyer is closed on Sundays. We cannot get the notary until tomorrow. He glared at me. Look what you did, Russell. We had a plan. I stood there looking down at my boots, acting like a scolded child. I will clean it up, I said. I will fix it. I reached for the sodden stack of papers. Leave it, Hunter snapped. We will throw them out. I will get fresh copies tomorrow. No, no, I said, clutching the wet papers to my chest. I can dry them out. The ink is still good. I do not want you to spend more money on lawyers. I will take them to the pool house. I will lay them out in the sun. Give me the papers, Russell Hunter said, stepping forward. I took a step back. I held the papers tighter. The coffee was soaking into my shirt. It was hot, but I did not care. I needed these papers. I needed the evidence. I am trying to help. I said, my voice trembling. Please, Hunter, let me fix my mistake. I will read them while they dry. That way I will be ready to sign tomorrow. I promise. Hunter stopped. He looked at me. He saw a pathetic old man trying to save face. He saw a man who was desperate to be useful. He calculated. If he fought me for the papers now, it would look suspicious. If he let me take them, he bought himself a day of peace. He sighed. A long, exasperated sigh. Fine, he said. Take them. Dry them out. Read them. Do whatever you want. Just do not make any more messes in my house. He turned away disgusted. Jasmine, clean this up, he ordered his wife. I backed away toward the sliding glass door, clutching the wet bundle of lies. I am sorry, Jasmine, I whispered as I passed her. She did not look up. She was scrubbing the coffee stain on the marble, trying to erase the evidence of the morning. I walked out into the bright California sun. My heart was pounding in my chest like a piston firing out of rhythm. I had them. I had the proof. I walked quickly down the stone path to the pool house. I did not look back. When I got inside, I locked the door. I threw the wet stack of papers onto the table. I peeled them apart carefully. The coffee had stained them, but the text was still legible. Power of attorney, transfer of deed, revocation of existing will. It was all there. The blueprint for a robbery. I took out my phone. I laid each page out on the floor. I took pictures. Click, click, click. Every page, every clause, every lie. My hands were not shaking anymore. They were steady as a rock. I sent the photos to Veronica, my lawyer in Atlanta. Then I sent a text. I have the flight plan I typed. The engines are failing. Tell me how to land this bird. I sat down on the floor surrounded by the drying papers. The smell of coffee filled the small room. It was strong and bitter. Hunter wanted me to sign tomorrow. He thought the delay was just an accident. He thought he had another 24 hours to reel me in, but he was wrong. The delay was not an accident. It was a maneuver. I picked up the power of attorney document. The coffee stain looked like a blood stain right across the signature line. You want my signature, Hunter, I whispered. You will get it. But it is not going to be on this paper. I heard a ping on my phone. It was Veronica. I am looking at them now, she wrote. This is fraud, Russell. This is elder abuse. We can bury him with this, but we need to be smart. But we need to. Do not let him know you know. Not yet, I typed back. He thinks I am senile. He thinks I am clumsy. Veronica replied. Good, use that. Let him think he is winning. And Russell, yes. Don't drink the coffee tomorrow. I smiled, a grim, hard smile. I looked out the window at the pool. Hunter was out there now screaming at the pool boy about a leaf in the water. He was a small man in a big house trying to control everything. He did not know that the control had already shifted. I gathered the papers up. I would dry them out just like I promised. I would act like I was studying them. I would ask stupid questions about the font size and the margins. I would drive him crazy with my slowness. And while he was distracted watching the slow old man, I would be tightening the noose. I lay back on the couch and closed my eyes. I was tired. But it was a good tired. It was the tired of a man who had put in a full shift. The game was on. And for the first time since I landed in this godforsaken city, I knew exactly how to play it. I asked Jasmine to drive me to get a coffee. I told her the stuff in the house was too fancy for my taste, and I just wanted a regular cup of Joe from a regular place. She hesitated at first. She looked at her phone and then at the pool where Hunter was yelling at a landscaper, but eventually she grabbed her keys. We drove in her Range Rover with the leather seats that were softer than my living room sofa. We did not speak. The silence in the car was thick and heavy like the air before a thunderstorm in Georgia. We pulled into a generic coffee shop strip mall place with fluorescent lights and sticky tables. It was not the kind of place a woman in a $2,000 dress usually went, but she parked the car and followed me inside. We sat in a booth in the back corner. I ordered a black coffee. She ordered a green tea that she did not drink. She just held the cup with both hands like she was trying to warm herself up even though it was 80 degrees outside. I looked at her. Really looked at her. I tried to find the little girl with the braided hair who used to sit on my workbench and hand me wrenches. I tried to find the teenager who cried when she got her first C in algebra because she did not want to disappoint me. But I could not find them. The woman sitting across from me was a stranger. Her face was contoured with makeup that made her look sharp and hard. Her nails were long and painted a blood red. But her eyes were shifting, darting around the room, looking at everything except her father. "Jasmine," I said quietly, "look at me." She flinched. She slowly lifted her eyes. They were wet. "I need to ask you something," I said. "And I need you to tell me the truth. Not the Hollywood truth. Not the Hunter truth. The real truth. The truth you would tell your mother if she were sitting right here next to me." She swallowed hard. Her throat clicked. "What is it, Dad?" she whispered. I leaned forward. I kept my voice low and steady. "Those papers Hunter gave me this morning. The ones I spilled coffee on. Do you know what is in them?" She looked down at her tea. She started picking at the cuticle of her thumb. It was a nervous habit she had since she was 6 years old. "It is just legal stuff, Dad," she said. "Like Hunter said, it is to help you." "Stop it," I said. My voice was not loud, but it had an edge to it, a hard steel edge. "Do not lie to me, Jasmine. I read them. I read every word while they were drying in the sun." Her hand froze. She went completely still. "I know about the power of attorney," I said. "I know about the transfer of the deed. And I know about the plan to sell the shop on Martin Luther King Boulevard." I paused. I watched her face crumble. The mask was cracking. "But that is not what hurts me," I continued. "I can make more money. I can buy more land. What hurts me is the rest of it." I took a breath. This was the hardest question I had ever asked in my life. "Do you know about the Mojave?" I asked. She jerked her head up. Her eyes went wide with panic. "Do you know that Hunter plans to put me in a state facility in the desert 4 hours away from you?" I asked. "Do you know that once I sign those papers, I am never going to see you again?" Jasmine made a sound. It was a small, broken whimper. Tears started to roll down her cheeks, cutting tracks through her expensive foundation. "Dad, please," she sobbed. "It is not like that. Hunter said it is a nice place. He said it has doctors. He said you would be happy there." "So you knew," I said. The words tasted like ash. "You knew." She nodded. She put her face in her hands and wept. "Why, Jasmine?" I asked. "Why would you do this to me? I gave you everything. I worked double shifts. I went without new clothes for 10 years so you could go to that private school. I gave you the down payment for that house. Why do you want to throw me away like garbage?" She looked up. Her face was red and blotchy. The glamorous Beverly Hills wife was gone. All that was left was a scared, pathetic child. "Because we are broke, Dad," she whispered. "We are drowning." She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Her palm was clammy. "Hunter lied to everyone," she said, the words tumbling out of her mouth. "The architecture firm is gone. He lost the biggest contract last year. He leveraged everything to start the Skyline project, but no one wants to invest. The house is second mortgaged. The cars are leased. The credit cards are maxed out. If we do not get the money from your land by Monday, we lose it all. Everything." I pulled my hand away. I looked at her with pity, but it was a cold pity. "So you would sell your father to save your swimming pool?" I asked. "No, Dad, no," she cried. "It is not about the pool. It is about my life. I cannot go back. I cannot be poor again, Dad. I cannot live like we did in Atlanta. I cannot clip coupons and drive a used car and worry about the electric bill. I just can't." She was shaking now. "Hunter loves me," she said, trying to convince herself more than me. "He is just stressed. He is a genius, Dad. He just needs a break. Once the Skyline project is built, he will pay you back. He promised. He said he would move you into the penthouse suite." "He is lying, Jasmine," I said. "He is not a genius. He is a con man. And you are not his partner. You are his victim. And now you are making me a victim too." She shook her head violently. "No, you do not understand. You have to sign. Please, Dad, just sign the papers. If you do not, he will leave me. He told me." He said if he loses the house, he is leaving me. And I cannot be alone. I am 32 years old. I have no job, I have no skills. I am nothing without him. I looked at her sitting there in her designer dress, terrified of the world, terrified of work, terrified of losing a man who treated her like a prop. I realized then that my daughter was dead. The girl who used to help me fix engines, the girl who was smart and brave and kind, she died a long time ago. This woman sitting in front of me was a hollow shell filled with fear and greed. You have skills, I said quietly. I taught you how to calculate load-bearing weights. I taught you how to balance a ledger. I taught you how to stand up for yourself. You chose to forget those things. You chose to be a doll in a dollhouse. I stood up. I could not sit at that table anymore. The air felt suffocating. Dad, where are you going? She asked, panicking. You are going to sign right. You have to sign. I looked down at her. I felt a tearing sensation in my chest, like a muscle ripping away from the bone. It was the bond between parent and child snapping. I am going to finish my coffee, I said. And then I am going to go back to the house and act like this conversation never happened. But will you sign? She begged. I looked at her one last time. I will do what needs to be done, I said. I walked out of the coffee shop and stood on the sidewalk. The California sun was bright and harsh. I took a deep breath of the smoggy air. I had my answer. There was no saving her. She had made her choice. She chose the lifestyle over the life. She chose the abuser over the protector. It broke my heart, but it also clarified my mission. Before this conversation, I had hesitated. I had thought about maybe just exposing Hunter and trying to take Jasmine back home to Atlanta. I thought maybe she was just brainwashed. But now I knew. She was not brainwashed. She was complicit. She was willing to let me rot in the desert so she could keep her Range Rover. That kind of rot goes deep. You cannot fix it. You have to cut it out. I waited for her to come out of the shop. She fixed her makeup in the bathroom before she emerged. She put her sunglasses on to hide her swollen eyes. We walked back to the car in silence. When we got in, she turned to me. Dad, she said, her voice steady again. Do not tell Hunter we talked about this. He would be angry. I looked out the window. Don't worry, Jasmine, I said. I won't tell him a thing. I meant it. I wasn't going to tell him. I was going to show him. As we drove back up the winding roads to the mansion, I felt a shift in my engine. The grief was still there, but it was moving to the back. The anger was moving to the front. They wanted the money. They wanted the land. They wanted the simple old man to save them. Well, the simple old man was going to give them a salvation they would never forget. I touched the phone in my pocket. I had recorded the conversation in the coffee shop, too, just in case. I have you now, Jasmine, I thought. I have you both. And when this house of cards falls down, I am not going to be the one underneath it. Drive faster, baby girl, I said. We have a lot of work to do before the party. She stepped on the gas, eager to get back to her cage. I just watched the scenery go by, counting down the minutes until I could blow it all up. Hunter drove us out to the edge of the city where the pavement turned cracked and the palm trees looked thirsty. He said he wanted to show me the headquarters for the Skyline project. He said it was a state-of-the-art facility where the magic happened. But when we pulled up to a corrugated metal warehouse sitting in a lot full of weeds, I knew the only magic happening here was a disappearing act. He parked the Range Rover next to a dumpster that was overflowing with trash. He smoothed his hair in the rearview mirror and put on his expensive sunglasses. This is it, Russell, he said, gesturing grandly at the rusted building. We are keeping it low profile until the funding comes through. Smart business, you know. Low overhead means high yield. I looked at the building. I looked at the padlock on the front door that was covered in dust. Nobody had been in there for months. I did not say anything. I just nodded and got out of the car. The heat coming off the asphalt was brutal. It smelled of tar and dead grass. Hunter fumbled with a ring of keys. His hands were shaking again. He dropped the keys, once picked them up, and finally managed to get the lock open. We stepped inside. The air was stale and hot, like the inside of an oven. There was one desk in the middle of the empty concrete floor. On the desk was a single laptop and a roll of blueprints that looked like they had been bought at a prop store. See, Hunter said, walking around the empty space, his voice echoing off the metal walls. We are going to put the design team over there. The engineering department will go in the loft. It is a blank canvas, Russell. Just waiting for your investment to paint the picture. I walked over to the desk. I ran my finger through the dust. It came up thick and gray. It is very quiet, I said. Hunter laughed a nervous, high-pitched sound. "It is Saturday," he said. "Everyone is off today. Even geniuses need a break, right?" I walked over to the blueprints. I unrolled them. I am not an architect, but I know how to read a schematic. These were not plans for a high-rise condo. They were generic floor plans for a shopping mall printed off the internet. The date in the corner was from 2 years ago. I was about to ask him why he was building a mall in a residential zone when I heard the sound of tires crunching on gravel outside. It was not a normal car. It was a heavy engine, a diesel with a bad fuel injector. I knew that knock. It meant trouble. Hunter froze. He looked at the door like he had seen a ghost. "Are you expecting someone?" I asked. "No," he whispered. His face went pale. The door burst open. The sunlight flooded in, blinding us for a second. 2 men stepped inside. They were big. Not gym big, but work big. They wore heavy boots and jeans that were stained with grease. One of them had a neck tattoo of a wrench. The other one was holding a tire iron. "Well, look who it is," the one with the tire iron said. His voice was like gravel in a mixer. "Mr. Architect himself. We thought you skipped town, Hunter." Hunter took a step back. He bumped into the desk. "Guys," he stammered, "I told you, the money is coming. I just need a few more days. We gave you a few more days last month," the man said, stepping closer. "You owe us 40 grand for the demolition work on the intense site. My guys have families, Hunter. They need to eat." Hunter looked around the room looking for an exit. There was none. He looked at me. And then he did something that made me lose the last ounce of respect I had for him. He stepped behind me. He used his 69-year-old father-in-law as a human shield. He grabbed my shoulders and pushed me forward slightly. "This is my partner, Hunter," squeaked from behind my back. "He is the one with the money. He is from Atlanta. He is going to pay you. Talk to him." The man with the tire iron looked at me. He looked at my work boots. He looked at my calloused hands. He looked at the way I stood with my feet shoulder-width apart, planted solid on the concrete. He stopped. I looked him in the eye. I did not blink. I did not flinch. I had dealt with angry men on the tarmac for 40 years. I had dealt with pilots screaming about delays and union reps screaming about hours. 2 thugs in a warehouse did not scare me. "Who are you, old man?" the thug asked, lowering the tire iron slightly. "I am the mechanic," I said. My voice was low and steady. It filled the empty room without shouting. "The mechanic," the thug repeated, confused. "That is right," I said. "I fix things that are broken. And right now, I am looking at a very broken situation." I took a step forward, moving away from Hunter. I did not want his cowardice to rub off on me. "You are driving a 2004 Ford F-250, I said, nodding toward the door. "I can hear the number 3 injector misfiring from here. You are losing compression. Another 50 miles and you are going to blow the head gasket. That is a $3,000 repair if you are lucky." The thug looked at his friend, then looked back at me. He looked surprised. "How do you know that?" he asked. "Because I have been listening to engines since before you were born, son," I said. "I know when something is about to blow, just like I know you are not here to hurt anyone. You are here because you did a job and you want to get paid. A working man deserves his wages. I respect that." The thug lowered the tire iron completely. He saw the grease under my fingernails. He recognized one of his own. "Yeah, well, your boss back there does not respect it," the thug said, pointing at Hunter, who was cowering by the desk. "He has been dodging us for weeks." "He is not my boss," I said. "He is my son-in-law, and he is a fool, but he is a fool who is about to come into some money." Hunter popped his head up. "Yes, yes," he yelled. "My father-in-law is signing the papers tomorrow, Saturday night, at the gala. Millions are coming in. I swear." I looked at the thug. "You heard him," I said. "Saturday night." The thug looked skeptical. "Why should I believe him?" he asked. "He is a liar." "Believe me," I said. "Look at my hands. Do these look like the hands of a liar?" The thug looked at my hands again. He saw the scars. He saw the years of labor. He nodded slowly. "Monday," the thug said. "We come back Monday morning. If the money is not in the account, we are not coming to talk. We are coming to break things, and we will start with his legs." He pointed the tire iron at Hunter. "Understood," I said. The thug turned to leave. He stopped at the door and looked back at me. "Hey, old man," he said. "What should I do about the injector?" "Run some sea foam through the intake and change the fuel filter," I said. "It will buy you a few thousand miles, but get it to a shop soon." "Thanks," he said. They walked out. The heavy door slammed shut. The sound of the diesel engine started up, rattled loudly, and then faded away down the road. Silence returned to the warehouse. I turned to look at Hunter. He was leaning against the desk, breathing hard. His face was covered in sweat. He looked at me, and for a second I saw relief. But then the relief turned into something else. It turned into shame. And then the shame turned into anger. He hated that I had saved him. He hated that the old black man from Atlanta had stood tall while he had cowered in the corner. He hated that the thugs respected me more than they respected him. He straightened his jacket and tried to regain his composure. "Well," he said, his voice shaking, "that was unpleasant, unprofessional. I should sue them for harassment." "You owe them money, Hunter," I said. "Pay them." He glared at me. "Do not tell me what to do, Russell. You do not understand high finance. It is a cash flow issue. Once you sign the papers, everything will be smooth." He walked past me toward the door. He tried to strut, but his knees were still wobbling. "Let us go," he said. "This place is too hot. And Russell, do not mention this to Jasmine. She worries too much." I watched him walk away. He looked small. He looked weak. I touched the pocket of my jeans where the voice recorder was running. I had it all. The threats, the debt, the admission that he was broke, the way he offered me up to the wolves to save his own skin. I followed him out to the car. The sun was beating down on us. "You handled that well," Hunter said as he started the engine. "I mean, for a mechanic. You speak their language, low-class stuff." I looked out the window. "Yes," I said. "I speak the language of men who work. You should try to learn it sometime, Hunter. It might save your life." He sneered and peeled out of the parking lot, kicking up dust. He thought he was insulting me. He thought calling me low-class hurt my feelings. He did not realize that he had just handed me the final piece of the puzzle. He was not just a thief, he was a coward. And cowards are dangerous because they will do anything to survive. I knew then that I had to move fast. The thugs were coming back on Monday. Hunter needed my signature by Saturday. That gave me 24 hours to execute my plan. I looked at my hands resting on my lap. They were steady. They were strong. They were the hands that were going to take this house of cards down. "Drive fast, Hunter," I thought. "Run as fast as you can. You cannot outrun what is coming." We drove back to Beverly Hills in silence, but the air in the car was electric with hate. He hated me because I was strong. I hated him because he was weak. Only one of us was going to be standing when the dust settled. And I had a tire iron of my own in the form of a recorded confession. Monday was coming for him, but I was coming for him first. The house was quiet, but it was not peaceful. It was the kind of silence you get in an engine room right before the pressure valve blows. It was 2 a.m. on a Thursday. I could not sleep on the lumpy mattress in the pool house, so I put on my robe and walked up the stone path to the main house to get a glass of water. I moved slowly. My joints were aching from the damp air, but my mind was running at full throttle. I entered the kitchen through the back door. The moonlight was spilling across the marble floors, making everything look cold and blue. I poured a glass of tap water and drank it standing by the sink. I was about to turn around and go back to my shed when I saw it. A sliver of light coming from under the door of Hunter's study. It was faint, just a thin yellow line against the darkness. But I heard something too, a rhythmic scratching sound. Scritch, scratch, pause, scritch, scratch, crumple. It sounded like a rat gnawing on drywall. I set my glass down on the counter. I walked softly down the hallway. My bare feet made no sound on the tile. I had spent 40 years walking around sleeping passengers on red-eye flights. I knew how to be invisible. I reached the door. It was cracked open just an inch. I pressed my face close to the gap and looked inside. Hunter was sitting at his desk. The only light came from a green banker's lamp. He was hunched over a piece of paper holding a pen with a grip so tight his knuckles were white. Scattered around him were other pieces of paper, old birthday cards. A check I had sent Jasmine for Christmas 3 years ago. The residency papers I had spilled coffee on yesterday. He was studying them. He would look at the birthday card, then look at the fresh document in front of him. He would move his hand in the air, practicing the motion. Then he would touch the pen to the paper. He was forging my signature. I watched him. I watched the sweat glistening on his forehead. I watched the way he bit his lip in concentration. He was trying to copy the loop of the R in Russell. It was a specific loop. My third-grade teacher, Mrs. Henderson, taught me to write that way in 1962. She smacked my hand with a ruler until I got it right. Hunter was trying to steal Mrs. Henderson's work. He was trying to steal my name. My first instinct was to kick the door open. I wanted to grab him by his collar and drag him out into the street. I wanted to call the police and show them the crime in progress. But then I stopped. If I stopped him now, he would just deny it. He would say he was practicing. He would say he was doodling. He would say the old man was crazy and seeing things. And Jasmine would believe him. She always believed him. I needed him to feel safe. I needed him to think he had won so he would bet everything he had. I took a breath. I adjusted my robe. I smoothed my face into the mask of the tired, confused old man. I pushed the door open. The hinges squeaked. Hunter jumped like he had been shot. He slammed a folder shut over the papers in front of him. His hand knocked over a stapler. He spun around in his chair, his eyes wide and terrified. "Russell," he gasped. "Jesus, you scared me." I stood in the doorway, blinking slowly against the light. "I am sorry, Hunter," I said, my voice raspy. "I came for water. I saw the light." Hunter's chest was heaving. He tried to smile, but it looked more like a grimace. He casually tried to slide the practice sheets into the trash can with his elbow. "I am just working late," he said quickly. "So much paperwork for the Skyline project. You know how it is." I walked into the room. I did not look at the trash can. I looked at the wall where he had hung a framed degree that I knew he bought online. "You work too hard, Hunter," I said. "A machine cannot run at maximum RPM forever. Eventually it overheats." Hunter relaxed a little. He thought I was just rambling. "I have to work hard, Russell," he said, wiping the sweat from his brow. "I have a family to support. I have a legacy to build." I walked over to the chair opposite his desk and sat down heavily. I let out a long sigh. "I have been thinking, Hunter," I said. He tensed up again, thinking about what he asked, about the papers I said, the ones I spilled coffee on. Hunter's eyes narrowed. He was calculating. "Yeah, what about them?" he asked. "I cannot sleep," I said. "I keep thinking about what you said, about the neighborhood in Atlanta being dangerous, about me being alone. I miss Esther. I miss her every day. And being in that big house by myself. Sometimes the silence is too loud." I looked down at my hands. I rubbed my thumb over my wedding ring. "Maybe you are right," I said softly. "Maybe it is time for me to rest. Maybe I should let you handle things." Hunter stopped breathing for a second. He leaned forward. The greed in his eyes was so bright it was almost blinding. "Are you saying what I think you are saying, Russell?" he asked. I looked up at him. I made my eyes look watery and tired. "I am ready to sign," I said. Hunter let out a breath that sounded like a balloon deflating. He slumped back in his chair. A massive grin broke across his face. "That is great, Russell," he said. That is the smartest decision you have ever made. You will not regret this, I promise." He started reaching for the drawer. "I can print a fresh copy right now," he said. "We can do it right here. Get it over with so you can sleep." I raised my hand. "No," I said firmly. Hunter froze. "No," he asked. "Why not?" "Not like this," I said, looking around the shadowy room. "Not in the dark. Not in the middle of the night like we are doing something wrong." I stood up and walked over to the window. I looked out at the dark lawn. "I am a proud man, Hunter," I said. "I have worked for every dollar I have. If I am going to hand over my life's work to you, I want to do it with dignity. I want to do it standing up." Hunter looked confused. "Okay," he said slowly. "So we do it tomorrow morning at breakfast." "No," I said, turning back to face him. "Not at breakfast." "At the gala." "The gala," Hunter repeated. "You said you are having a big party on Saturday night," I said. "A celebration for the project. You said there will be investors there. Important people." "Yes," Hunter said, getting excited. "The biggest investors in the city." "Good," I said. "Then that is where I will sign." I walked back to the desk and leaned on it. "I want you to make an announcement, Hunter. I want you to bring me up on stage. I want you to tell everyone that Russell Hayes believes in you so much that he is betting his entire legacy on you. I want to sign those papers in front of everyone under the lights. I want them to see that I am not just some old charity case. I want them to see that I am a partner." Hunter's mouth fell open. He was processing it. He was imagining the scene, the drama, the theater. It was exactly the kind of ego stroke he lived for. He stood up slowly. His eyes were glittering. A public signing, he whispered. A ceremonial transfer of assets. Russell, that is brilliant. He started pacing the room, his hands flying in the air. It will show total confidence, he said, talking to himself. The investors are worried about the liquidity. But if they see the deed being signed right there on stage, my God, it will be the ultimate closing move. Franklin Vance will double his investment on the spot. He turned to me and grabbed my hand. He shook it vigorously. You are a genius, Russell, he said. A genius. We will make it a spectacle. We will have a photographer. We will have a notary right there on stage. It will be the highlight of the night. I smiled a small, tired smile. That sounds nice, I said. I just want to make Jasmine proud. I want to look like a man of substance one last time before I retire. You will be the star of the show, Hunter promised. I will get you a tuxedo, a real one, not that polyester thing. We will get you groomed. You are going to look like $1,000,000. He was already reaching for his phone, even though it was 2 a.m. I need to call the event planner, he muttered. We need to change the run of show. We need a podium. We need better lighting. He looked at me. Russell, go to bed. Get some rest. You need to look fresh for Saturday. I nodded. Good night, Hunter, I said. I walked out of the room. As I closed the door, I heard him dialing. Kevin, wake up, he was shouting into the phone. I need to upgrade the package. Yes, everything. I want the champagne tower, I want the live band, I want the caviar station back. No, do not worry about the budget. The money is locked. I am telling you, it is a done deal. Put it all on the credit card. I will pay it off on Monday. I stood in the hallway listening. He was doubling down. He was borrowing more money. He was digging the hole so deep that he would never be able to climb out. He was going to spend another $20,000 or $30,000 on a party that was celebrating his own funeral. I walked back down the hall to the kitchen. I poured another glass of water. My hand was steady. I thought about the signature he was practicing. He wanted to be Russell Hayes so bad. He wanted the authority. He wanted the respect. Well, on Saturday night, he was going to get the full Russell Hayes experience. I walked back out into the night air. The pool house looked dark and lonely, but it felt different now. It did not feel like a prison. It felt like a bunker. I went inside and lay down on the couch. I pulled the thin blanket up to my chin. I closed my eyes and pictured the gala. I pictured the lights. I pictured the crowd. I pictured Hunter's face when he realized that the pen in my hand was not a pen of surrender. It was a sword. He wanted a show. I was going to give him the greatest show of his life. Saturday night could not come fast enough. I drifted off to sleep listening to the hum of the generator I had fixed. It was running smooth and strong, just like me. Friday morning felt like the calm before a hurricane. The house was buzzing with activity. Delivery trucks were backing up the driveway, beeping loudly. A team of florists was carrying in white lilies by the armful. Hunter was standing in the foyer shouting orders at a poor girl holding a clipboard. He looked manic. His eyes were wide and bloodshot, and he was moving too fast. He was high on adrenaline and the promise of $3 million that he thought was coming tomorrow night. I told him I needed to go to the pharmacy to pick up some blood pressure medication. I told him the stress of the travel had made my levels spike. It was a lie, but it was a lie he wanted to hear. He wanted me to be frail. He wanted me to be a problem that needed managing. Take an Uber, he shouted over the noise of a vacuum cleaner. Just be back by noon, Russell. The tailor is coming to fit your tuxedo. I walked down the driveway past the gate that had locked me out just 2 days ago. I did not call an Uber. I walked 3 blocks to a small park where a black sedan was waiting. The window rolled down. Get in. Uncle Russell said, a voice that sounded like home. It was Veronica Shaw. I had known her since she was in pigtails playing hopscotch on the sidewalk while her uncle and I played chess on the porch. Now she was 34 years old with a law degree from Howard University and a suit that cost more than my truck. She was the sharpest estate attorney in Atlanta and the only person in the world I trusted with my life. We drove to a quiet diner near the highway. It was far enough away from Beverly Hills that nobody would recognize us. We sat in a booth in the back. Veronica opened her laptop and laid out the photos I had sent her. This is bad, Russell, she said, her voice low and serious. I mean, I have seen greedy children before, but this is a masterclass in fraud. The forgery is decent, but the intent is criminal. If he files these papers, he could legally strip you of everything within 48 hours. I took a sip of my coffee. It was weak and watery, not like the coffee Jasmine used to make before she forgot who she was. I know, I said. That is why we are here. I need to know my options, Veronica. Veronica tapped the table. Option 1. We go to the police. We show them these photos. We get a handwriting expert. We file a restraining order. It will stop the sale, but it will drag on for months. Hunter will fight it. He will claim you are mentally incompetent. It will get ugly. I shook my head. No police, I said. Not yet. Police are for protection. I do not want protection. I want eviction. Veronica smiled. It was a sharp, dangerous smile. I thought you might say that. So let us look at option 2, the land. She pulled up a map of Atlanta on her screen. There was my shop, a small gray rectangle surrounded by new developments. Hunter thinks this is just commercial real estate, she said. He thinks he can sell it to a developer for $3 million and walk away. But he did not do his title search properly. I nodded. Esther and I filed for historical status 10 years ago, I said. The shop sits on the foundation of the first African-American-owned mechanic school in the county. My grandfather built that foundation. Exactly, Veronica said. The historical designation was approved pending final signature. You never signed it because you wanted to keep running the business. But if you sign that designation now, the property value for a commercial developer drops to almost zero. They cannot tear it down. They cannot build condos. They can only restore it. Hunter does not know that, I said. He has no clue, Veronica said. He sees dollar signs. He does not see the history. So here's the plan. You sign the designation papers today. We file them electronically with the city clerk. By Monday morning, that land is a protected heritage site. If Hunter tries to sell it, the sale will be blocked by the city. I looked at the map. I looked at the little gray box that held 40 years of my blood and sweat. I want to go further, I said. I do not just want to block the sale. I want to give it away. Veronica paused. She looked at me over her glasses. Give it away, she asked. I want to donate the land trust to the Historical Society, I said. I want it to be the Esther Hayes Cultural Center. I want it to be a place where kids can learn to fix things, where they can learn that you build a life with your hands, not by stealing from your family. Veronica's eyes softened. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Aunt Esther would love that, she whispered. Draw it up, I said. I will announce it at the gala. Veronica started typing furiously. Okay, she said. The land is taken care of. That stops him from getting the $3 million. But Russell, that does not solve your immediate problem. Hunter is desperate. If he does not get that money on Monday, he is going to be dangerous. He owes people money. Bad people. I leaned back in the booth. This was the part of the plan that scared me. This was the part where I had to put everything on the line. I know about his debts, I said. I met his creditors yesterday. They are going to break his legs if he does not pay. I pulled out a small notebook from my pocket. It contained the numbers I had copied from Hunter's desk the night before. Account numbers, loan references, the name of the bank holding his mortgage. Hunter is leveraged to the hilt, I said. He has a second mortgage on the house. He has a business loan that is in default. He is underwater. Veronica looked at the numbers. She whistled low and long. He is not just underwater, Russell. He is at the bottom of the ocean. This mortgage is distressed. The bank has already initiated pre-foreclosure proceedings. They are just waiting for the grace period to end. Who owns the debt, I asked. Veronica clicked a few keys. It looks like a portfolio of distressed assets held by a subsidiary of Pacific Western Bank. They are looking to offload it. They would probably sell the note for 60 cents on the dollar just to get it off their books. Buy it, I said. The diner went silent. The waitress pouring coffee 3 tables away stopped. Veronica stopped typing. She looked at me like I had lost my mind. Excuse me, she said. Buy the debt, I repeated. Buy the mortgage. Buy the business loan. I want to own the paper that owns him, Russell, Veronica said, her voice shaking. Do you know how much that costs? We are talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even at a discount, it is a fortune. I have my 401k, I said. I have the life insurance payout from Esther. I have the savings from the shop. I have been saving for a retirement that I am never going to get to enjoy because my family is trying to kill me. Russell, that is everything, Veronica said. That is your safety net. If this goes wrong, if the house value crashes, you lose everything. You will be destitute. I looked her in the eye. I am already destitute, Veronica, I said. My daughter looked me in the face and sold me out for a swimming pool. I have no family left. Money is just paper. Dignity is the only currency I care about now. But why buy the debt, she asked. Why not just let the bank foreclose, let him lose the house? Because if the bank takes the house, it takes 6 months, I said. Hunter will live there for free while the lawyers argue. He will drag it out, he will blame me, he will say I ruined him. I do not want him to have a scapegoat. I want him to have a landlord. I leaned forward. If I own the mortgage, I can foreclose on Monday, I said. I can kick him out. I can take the keys. I can stand in that doorway and tell him to get off my property. Veronica looked at me. She saw the fire in my eyes. She saw the mechanic who was tired of fixing things and was ready to use the wrench as a weapon. She took a deep breath. Okay, she said. Okay, Uncle Russell, if we do this, we have to move fast. I can set up a shell company in Delaware. We can wire the funds today. We can close the purchase of the note by tomorrow afternoon. But once I hit enter, there is no going back. Your savings account will be empty. Empty it, I said. She opened a new window on her screen. She started entering data. I watched her fingers fly. Every keystroke was $1,000 of my hard work. Every click was a year of changing oil and replacing brake pads. I was terrified. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a bird trapped in a cage. This was it. This was the point of no return. Veronica stopped. Her finger hovered over the enter key. Last chance, Russell, she said. Are you sure? I thought about the pool house. I thought about the voice recorder. I thought about Jasmine crying in the coffee shop and then putting her sunglasses on to hide her shame. Do it, I said. She pressed the key. Done, she said. The wire is processing. By this time tomorrow, you will be the sole owner of the mortgage on 1542 Crestview Drive. You are now Hunter's Bank. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I felt lighter. My bank account was empty, but my soul was full. Thank you, Veronica, I said. She closed the laptop. You better get back, she said. You have a tuxedo to fit. You need to look good when you destroy him. I stood up. I felt strong. I felt like the man Esther married. One more thing, Veronica said. When you are on that stage tomorrow, do not hold back. Make it hurt. I smiled. Rust never sleeps, Veronica, I said. And neither does justice. I walked out of the diner and into the bright sunlight. The black sedan was waiting to take me back to the cage, but it wasn't a cage anymore. It was my house. They just didn't know it yet. I rode back to Beverly Hills watching the city pass by. I looked at the homeless tents under the overpass. I looked at the mansions on the hill. I was somewhere in between. I was a man with nothing in his pocket but the deed to his enemy's life. When I got back to the gate, I punched in the code. 4 zeros. The gate swung open. I walked up the driveway. Hunter was there arguing with the florist about the color of the lilies. He saw me. Did you get your pills, he asked. I patted my pocket. I got everything I need, Hunter, I said. Everything I need. He nodded, dismissing me. Good. Go to the pool house. The tailor will be there in 10 minutes. I got you a black velvet tuxedo. You are going to look like a King Russell. I walked past him. I am the king I thought, and tomorrow I am taking my crown back. I went into the pool house and sat down on the lumpy couch. I checked my phone. A notification from my bank. Balance 0. I laughed. A dry, hard laugh. I was broke. I was alone, and I had never felt more powerful in my life. Tomorrow night, the Skyline project was going to launch, but it wasn't going to the moon. It was going to crash into the mountain, and I was going to be the one flying the plane. Saturday night arrived not with a whimper, but with a roar. The house on the hill was transformed into something I hardly recognized. Hunter had spent money he did not have to turn his driveway into a red carpet event. There were valet parking attendants in red jackets running back and forth, parking Bentleys and Ferraris. There were spotlights crisscrossing the sky like we were at a movie premiere. I stood in front of the full-length mirror in the pool house wearing the tuxedo Hunter had rented for me. It was black velvet. It was heavy. It was hot. It fit me perfectly because the tailor had pinned it within an inch of its life. I looked at myself. I did not look like Russell Hayes the mechanic. I looked like Russell Hayes the tycoon. I looked like the man Hunter wanted me to be. The man with the deep pockets and the silent mouth. I adjusted the bow tie. It was tight around my neck. It felt like a noose, but I knew that tonight I was not the one who was going to hang. I walked out of the pool house. The music was already thumping. It was a live band playing smooth jazz, but it was too loud. It vibrated in my chest. I walked up the stone path that was now lined with battery-operated candles. Hundreds of them, fake flames flickering in the California breeze. Everything here was fake. The candles, the smiles, the money. I reached the top of the stairs and stepped onto the main patio. It was crowded. There were at least 200 people here. I scanned the crowd. I saw men in suits that cost more than my truck. I saw women with faces that looked like they had been pulled too tight. They were holding champagne flutes and laughing with their heads thrown back. But their eyes were cold. They were scanning the room, looking for the next opportunity, looking for the next person they could use. They were vultures. I stood there on the edge of the party, watching them feed. They were eating the caviar Hunter had put on the credit card. They were drinking the vintage wine that belonged to a bank. They were celebrating a success that did not exist. Russell. I turned. It was Jasmine. She looked stunning. She was wearing a long gold dress that shimmered like liquid metal. Her hair was piled high on her head. She looked like a queen, but her face was pale. Her eyes were red-rimmed despite the heavy makeup. She had been crying again. She walked over to me. She did not hug me. She stood close enough that I could smell the alcohol on her breath. She had been drinking to get through the night. "Dad," she whispered. "You look handsome." "Thank you, Jasmine," I said. "You look expensive." She flinched at the word. She looked around nervously to see if anyone was watching us. Hunter was across the patio laughing loudly with Franklin Vance. He did not see us. "Dad," she said, her voice shaking. "You do not have to do this." I looked at her. "Do what I asked." "You do not have to go up there," she said. "You can say you are sick. You can say you feel dizzy. We can call it off." I looked deep into her eyes. I saw the fear there. But it was not fear for me. It was fear of the guilt. She wanted the money, but she did not want to watch the execution. She wanted to be able to tell herself later that she tried to stop it. "It is too late for that, Jasmine," I said, my voice flat. "The plane has already left the gate. We are on the runway." "But Dad," she pleaded, grabbing my sleeve. He is manic. He is betting everything on this signature. If you sign those papers, if I sign them, you get to keep your house," I said, cutting her off. "You get to keep your pool. You get to keep your life. Is that not what you wanted?" She looked down at her gold shoes. "I do not know anymore," she whispered. I have a bad feeling." "That feeling is your conscience," I said. "It is a little late to listen to it now. You made your choice in the coffee shop, Jasmine. You chose the lifestyle. Now you have to live with the price." I pulled my arm away from her grip. "Go find your husband," I said. "He is looking for me." She stood there for a second, looking like she wanted to say something else, looking like she wanted to scream. But she didn't. She just nodded and turned away, disappearing into the crowd of gold and glitter. I watched her go. A part of me died watching her walk away. But another part of me, the part that fixed broken engines, knew that sometimes you have to let a part fail so you can replace it. "There he is. The man of the hour." Hunter's voice boomed across the patio. The crowd parted. He walked toward me with his arms wide open. He was wearing a white tuxedo jacket. He looked like a game show host. He was sweating despite the cool night air. His eyes were wide and frantic. He grabbed me by the shoulders. "Look at you, Russell," he said. "You look like $1 billion. He turned to the people standing near us. "Doesn't he look magnificent?" Hunter asked them. "This is the man I told you about, my father-in-law, the silent partner, the rock of our family." The guests clapped politely. They smiled their shark smiles. Hunter leaned in close to my ear. His breath smelled of scotch and mints. "Are you ready?" he hissed. "Do you have the pen?" I patted my pocket. "I am ready, Hunter," I said. "I have everything I need." "Good," he said. "Listen, the notary is set up on the stage. The photographer is ready. When we go up there, I will do the talking. I will introduce you. I will lay out the vision. All you have to do is nod, smile, and sign. Can you do that?" "I can do that," I said. Hunter squeezed my shoulder hard. "Do not mess this up, Russell," he whispered. "My life is in your hands." I looked at him. He had no idea how true that was. "I promise you, Hunter," I said. "Tonight will be a night you never forget." He grinned. A manic, desperate grin. "Let's do this," he said. He grabbed my arm and led me through the crowd. People patted me on the back as I passed. They shook my hand. "Good to meet you, Mr. Hayes," one man said. "Smart investment, sir," another woman said. I nodded to them all. I played the part. I was the silent partner. I was the old money from the South. We reached the front of the patio where a small stage had been set up. There was a podium with a microphone. There was a table with a velvet cloth. On the table sat a single piece of paper, the deed transfer, and next to it a notary public sat waiting with his stamp. Hunter bounded up the stairs onto the stage. He grabbed the microphone. The feedback squealed for a second, and then the crowd went silent. "Welcome, everyone," Hunter shouted. "Welcome to the Skyline Gala." Applause rippled through the yard. Hunter soaked it up. He raised his hands like a preacher. "Tonight is not just a party," he said. "Tonight is the beginning of a new era. For years I have dreamed of changing the skyline of Los Angeles. I have dreamed of building something that will last forever. But every great builder needs a foundation." He swept his arm toward me. I was standing at the bottom of the stairs waiting for my cue. "Please welcome the foundation of this project," Hunter said. "My father-in-law, my partner, and the man who is making Skyline a reality, Mr. Russell Hayes." The spotlight hit me. It was blindingly white. For a second I could not see anything. I blinked against the glare. I heard the applause. It was louder this time. They were clapping for the money. They were clapping for the $3 million they thought I was about to sign over. I walked up the stairs. My legs felt heavy, but my back was straight. I walked to the center of the stage. Hunter threw his arm around me. He hugged me tight. It was a hug for the cameras. "Smile, Russell," he whispered through his teeth. I looked out at the crowd. My eyes adjusted to the light. I saw them all. 200 faces looking up at me. I saw Jasmine standing in the front row. She was holding a glass of champagne with both hands. She looked like she was about to be sick. I saw the thugs from the warehouse standing in the back near the bar. They were wearing ill-fitting suits, but I recognized them. They gave me a small nod. They were here to collect. And I saw Franklin Vance standing right in the front with a greedy smile on his face. Hunter leaned into the microphone. "Russell is a man of few words," Hunter said. "He prefers to let his actions speak. Tonight he is taking a historic step. He is transferring the assets from his family estate in Atlanta to the Skyline Trust. This injection of capital will allow us to break ground on Monday morning." The crowd cheered. Hunter gestured to the table. "The notary is here. The papers are ready. Russell, if you would do the honors." He led me to the table. The notary looked up at me. He was a young man with glasses. He looked bored. He had probably notarized 1,000 bad deals in this town. I stood over the table. I looked at the document. It was the deed transfer for the shop. It was the death warrant for my legacy. Hunter handed me a gold pen. "Right here on the line, Russell," he said, pointing. "Just press hard." I took the pen. I looked at it. It was heavy. I looked at Hunter. He was practically vibrating. He was sweating so much his forehead was shining in the spotlight. He was looking at the pen like it was a magic wand that was going to make all his problems disappear. I looked out at the crowd again. They were silent now, waiting, watching the old man sign his life away. I thought about the pool house. I thought about the generator. I thought about the Mojave Desert. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of jasmine and expensive perfume and rot. I leaned toward the microphone. Hunter tried to pull it away. "Just sign Russell," he hissed. "No speeches." I held up my hand. I gripped the podium. My hands were large and scarred, and they looked out of place on the velvet. "I have a few words," I said. My voice boomed over the speakers. It was deep and raspy. It was the voice of a man who had shouted over jet engines for 40 years. The crowd murmured. Hunter froze. He looked nervous. I looked directly at Jasmine. "My name is Russell Hayes," I said. "I am a mechanic. I spent my life fixing things that other people broke. I learned a long time ago that you cannot fix an engine if the core is rotten. You have to strip it down. You have to clean it out." Hunter stepped closer. He tried to laugh. "He loves his metaphors, folks," Hunter said, trying to take the mic back. "Okay, Russell, let's sign." I elbowed him. It was a sharp, hard check to the ribs. He gasped and stepped back. "I am not done," I said. The crowd went deadly silent. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. "I came here to celebrate my 69th birthday," I said. "I came here to see my family." But instead, I saw a broken engine. I saw a house built on lies. I saw a daughter who forgot where she came from. And I saw a son-in-law who thinks that family is just a resource to be mined. Hunter's face went white. "Cut the mic," he yelled at the sound guy. "Cut the mic." But the sound guy was confused. He did not move. Hunter tried to grab me. I turned and looked him in the eye. "Sit down, boy," I growled. He sat. He was too shocked to do anything else. I looked back at the crowd. "Mr. Vance," I said, looking at the investor, "you want to know about the land in Atlanta. You want to know about the asset." Vance nodded slowly, his eyes narrowed. "It is a good piece of land," I said. "My grandfather bought it in 1920. He built a shop there because no white mechanic would fix a black man's car. He built a legacy." I reached into my pocket. I did not pull out the gold pen. I pulled out a folded piece of paper. "This land is not for sale," I said. The crowd gasped. Hunter stood up. "What are you doing?" he screamed. "This morning," I said, my voice rising, "I filed paperwork with the city of Atlanta. The Hayes Mechanic Shop is no longer a commercial property. It is now a protected historical site. And as of noon today, I have donated the land trust to the Historical Society to build a community center." No, Hunter screamed. "No, you cannot do that." "I did it," I said. "It is done. The land is gone, Hunter. There is no asset. There is no $3 million. There is only a piece of history that you can never touch." The crowd erupted into whispers. Franklin Vance turned purple. He looked at Hunter with murder in his eyes. "You lied to me," Vance shouted. "You said the deal was locked." Hunter was shaking. He looked at me. "You crazy old man," he yelled. "You ruined me. You burned the money." "I burned the rot," I said. "But I am not done," I said into the microphone. I looked at the thugs in the back. I saw them step forward. "Hunter owes a lot of people money," I said. "He owes the bank. He owes his investors. He owes these gentlemen in the back." Hunter looked at the thugs. He looked like he was going to vomit. "He planned to pay you with my land," I said. "He planned to put me in a home in the desert and spend my life savings on his debts. But that plan has failed." I reached into my other pocket. I pulled out another document. This one was blue. It was a bank document. "However," I said, "I believe in paying debts. I believe in ownership." I walked over to Hunter. He was trembling. "So I bought your debt, Hunter," I said. He looked up at me confused. What he whispered. "I cashed out my retirement," I said. "I cashed out my insurance. I bought the note on this house. I bought the note on your business. I am the bank now, Hunter." I slammed the blue paper down on the table next to the unsigned deed. "And I am foreclosing." The word echoed across the patio. "Foreclosing. You have 30 days to vacate the premises," I said loud and clear. "You and Jasmine, get out of my house." Hunter stared at the paper. He stared at me. His knees gave out. He collapsed onto the stage. I looked at the crowd. They were silent. They were shocked. They had come to see a coronation, and they had witnessed a slaughter. I took the gold pen from the table. I put it in my pocket. "Happy birthday to me," I said into the microphone. I dropped the mic. It hit the floor with a heavy thud. I turned and walked down the stairs. The crowd parted for me like the Red Sea. I walked past Jasmine. She was sobbing, her hands covering her face. I did not stop. I walked past Vance. He was already on his phone screaming at his lawyers. I walked past the thugs. They tipped their heads to me as I passed. "Respect, old man," one of them said. I walked straight through the party, straight through the house, and out the front door. I stood on the driveway under the fake stars. I felt clean. I felt light. The engine was stripped. The rust was gone. I took off the bow tie and threw it into the bushes. I was Russell Hayes, and I had just fixed the biggest problem of my life. The spotlight burned against my face like the midday sun on an asphalt runway. I stood alone at the podium, my hands gripping the wooden edges until my knuckles turned the color of old ivory. The microphone was a cold metal stick in front of my mouth, waiting to amplify my surrender. To the 200 people sitting in the dark below, I looked like a success story. I was the patriarch in the velvet tuxedo. I was the silent partner with the deep pockets. I was the golden goose about to lay the egg that would save my son-in-law from drowning in his own greed. I looked over at Hunter. He was standing just off to the side in the shadows. He was bouncing on the balls of his feet. His eyes were wide and manic, fixed on the pocket where I had put the gold pen. He gave me a thumbs up. It was a desperate, jerky motion. He was already spending the money in his head. He was already imagining the construction crews breaking ground on my history to build his glass towers. I looked at Jasmine in the front row. She had her head bowed. She could not look at me. She was staring at her hands, the same hands that used to hold mine when we crossed the street. Now those hands were holding a glass of champagne that cost more than my first set of tools. She was praying for it to be over. She wanted the money, but she did not want the shame. She was about to get a double dose of the truth. I leaned forward. The feedback from the speakers whined for a split second, a high-pitched shriek that made the crowd flinch. Then silence. A heavy, expectant silence. "My name is Russell Hayes," I said. My voice was deep and steady. It did not shake. It filled the garden and echoed off the walls of the mansion I had paid for. "I am a mechanic from Atlanta, Georgia. I have spent 40 years listening to engines. I fix turbines. I fix landing gears. I fix the things that carry people safely through the sky. And in my line of work, you learn one thing very quickly. You learn that you cannot build a strong machine with weak parts. If the core is rotten, the whole thing falls down." Hunter stepped forward slightly. He smiled a tight, nervous smile. He nodded at the crowd, trying to signal that this was all part of the show. He wanted me to get to the point. He wanted me to talk about the Skyline project. "My wife Esther passed away 5 years ago." I continued. I looked up at the light, but I did not see the bulb. I saw her face. I saw the way she looked when we bought the shop on Martin Luther King Boulevard in 1982. "Esther was a woman of faith," I said. "She believed that land was not just dirt. She believed land was memory. She believed that the ground we stand on holds the stories of the people who came before us. When we bought that shop, it was just a rusted shed with a leaking roof. But Esther saw a castle. She saw a future. She scrubbed those floors on her hands and knees until her fingers bled. She planted flowers by the chain-link fence. She told me, 'Russell, this is where we build our legacy.'" The crowd was quiet. They were listening. These were people who bought and sold companies for sport, but there was something in the truth that commanded attention. Even the sharks pause when they smell real blood. Hunter cleared his throat loudly. He tapped his watch. He was getting impatient. He needed the signature. He needed the deed. "My son-in-law talks a lot about foundations," I said, turning to look at him. "He talks about building a skyline. He talks about the future. And he told me that to build a future, you have to be willing to sacrifice the past. He told me that my old shop is just an asset, a line item on a spreadsheet, something to be liquidated to make room for progress." Hunter nodded vigorously. Yes, that was the script. That was what I was supposed to say. "For the last few days I have been thinking about that," I said. "I have been thinking about value. I have been thinking about what it means to be a rich man." I reached into the inside pocket of my tuxedo jacket. Hunter's eyes locked onto my hand. He stopped breathing. He thought I was reaching for the deed transfer. He thought I was reaching for the pen. But I did not pull out the pen. I pulled out a single sheet of paper. It was not the thick legal bond paper of the deed. It was a crisp document with a blue city seal at the top. I looked at the paper. Then I looked at the crowd. I realized that my son-in-law is right about one thing I said. You cannot hold on to the past forever. Sometimes you have to give it away to make sure it lasts. Hunter frowned. He took a half step onto the stage. This was not the speech he wrote. This was not the plan. "So this morning I made a decision," I said. My voice rose. It became harder. It became the voice of a man who was done being polite. "I decided that the legacy of Esther Hayes is not for sale. It cannot be traded. It cannot be leveraged. And it certainly cannot be poured into a hole in the ground to hide a bad debt." Hunter froze. His face went pale in the stage light. "So, as of noon today," I continued, holding up the document, "I have officially transferred the title of the Hayes Mechanic Shop and all the land attached to it." Hunter let out a breath. He thought I meant I transferred it to him. "But I did not transfer it to the Skyline Trust," I said. "I transferred it to the Atlanta Historical Society." The silence that followed was absolute. It was the silence of a heart stopping. Hunter's mouth fell open. He looked like he had been slapped. "Excuse me," I said, leaning into the mic. "I am not finished. I filed a petition to have the land designated as a protected African American heritage site," I said. "My grandfather built the foundation of that shop with his own hands when this country would not let him enter through the front door of a business. That history is now protected by federal law. It cannot be sold. It cannot be developed. It cannot be commercialized." I looked directly at Franklin Vance in the front row. The investor dropped his champagne glass. It shattered on the stone, but nobody moved. "That land is now the future site of the Esther Hayes Cultural Center," I said, "a non-profit organization dedicated to teaching trade skills to underprivileged youth. I have donated the land in perpetuity. It belongs to the people now. It belongs to history." Hunter let out a sound that was half scream and half sob. He rushed the podium. He grabbed my arm. His grip was wet and shaking. "What are you saying?" he hissed. The microphone picked up his whisper. "What are you saying, Russell?" I pulled my arm away. I looked at him with pity and disgust. "I am saying it is gone, Hunter," I said into the mic. "The asset is gone. The $3 million you promised these people does not exist. The collateral you offered the bank is not yours to give." "No," Hunter screamed. He turned to the crowd. He waved his hands frantically. "He is confused," he shouted. "He is senile. He does not know what he is doing. The papers are right here. The deed is right here." He grabbed the unsigned deed from the table and held it up. "Look," he yelled. "He just has to sign. The deal is still good." I stepped back to the mic. "The deal is dead, Hunter," I said. "And so is your lie." I looked out at the crowd. I saw the change happen. It rippled through the room like a wave. The smiles vanished. The eyes went cold. The phones came out. People were texting. They were calling their lawyers. They were canceling checks. Franklin Vance turned around and signaled to his entourage. They started walking toward the exit. They did not look back. Hunter saw them leaving. Panic took over him completely. He looked like a rat trapped in a corner. "Wait!" he screamed, running to the edge of the stage. "Franklin, wait! It is a mistake. I can fix it. I have other assets." I laughed. It was a dry, hard sound. "What assets, Hunter?" I asked. He spun around to face me. His eyes were wild. "You ruined me," he screamed. "You crazy old man. You burned the money. You burned everything." "I did not burn it," I said calmly. "I planted it. I planted it where it will grow into something real, not a glass tower built on fraud." Hunter lunged at me. He raised his fist. I did not flinch. I did not move. But before he could touch me, two large men stepped out of the shadows at the back of the stage. It was the men from the warehouse, the creditors. They did not look happy. They crossed their arms and stared at Hunter. Hunter stopped. He lowered his hand. He realized where he was. He realized he was standing on a stage in front of 200 witnesses, and the men who were going to break his legs were watching. He began to shake. "Why?" he whispered. "Why did you do this? I am family." I looked at him. I looked at the sweat dripping down his face. I looked at the white tuxedo that was now stained with fear. "Family," I repeated. I looked down at Jasmine. She was sobbing openly now. Her makeup was running down her face in black streaks. She looked at me and mouthed the word, "Sorry." "You are not family," I said to Hunter. "You are a parasite. You thought you could feed on me. You thought I was weak because I am old. You thought I was stupid because I work with my hands." I stepped closer to him. I leaned in so only he could hear me, but the microphone caught every word. "You forgot one thing, Hunter. I am a mechanic. I know how to take things apart, and I just dismantled your entire life." Hunter looked around the patio. The guests were leaving in droves. The valet stand was overwhelmed. The dream was dissolving in real time. He looked back at me. His eyes were empty. "I am finished," he whispered. "The bank, the loans, they will take everything." I smiled. It was a cold smile. "Oh, Hunter," I said. "We haven't even gotten to the best part yet." I reached into my other pocket, the pocket where the gold pen was supposed to be. But instead, I pulled out the blue document from the bank. "You see, I said I knew you were in trouble. I knew the sharks were circling. And I knew that if the bank foreclosed on this house, it would take months to get you out." Hunter stared at the blue paper. "What is that?" he asked. "This," I said, holding it up to the light, "is your mortgage." Hunter blinked. "My mortgage," he said. "Pacific Western Bank holds my mortgage." "Not anymore," I said. I turned the document so he could see the stamp. "Pacific Western sold their distressed assets this afternoon," I said. "They sold a portfolio of bad debt to a private holding company, a company called Rusty Wrench, LLC. Hunter shook his head. He did not understand. "Who is Rusty Wrench?" he asked. I pointed to myself. "I am Rusty Wrench," I said. The color drained from his face so fast he looked like a ghost. "I bought your debt, Hunter," I said. "I used my savings. I used my insurance money. I used every penny I had. I bought the note on this house. I bought the note on your business." I took a step closer. "I am the bank now." Hunter fell to his knees. He did not mean to. His legs just stopped working. He knelt on the velvet carpet in his white tuxedo, looking up at me like I was God. "No," he whispered. "Please, no." "Yes," I said, and as the holder of the note, I am exercising my right to accelerate the loan. You are in default, Hunter. You have been in default for 6 months. I looked out at the empty chairs and the flickering candles. This party is over, I said, and so is your lease on my patience. I looked down at him one last time. You wanted a foundation, Hunter. Well, now you have one. You are hitting rock bottom. Start building from there. I turned away from him. I walked to the edge of the stage. The notary was staring at me with his mouth open. I winked at him. I do not think we will be needing that stamp, son, I said. I walked down the stairs. The music had stopped. The band was packing up. The silence was beautiful. It was the sound of a clean engine. It was the sound of truth. I had blown up the stage. I had blown up the lie. And now as I walked through the wreckage, I felt lighter than air. The explosion was over. Now came the cleanup. And I was just the man for the job. The silence that followed my announcement did not last long. It broke like a fever. The sound of 200 people realizing they had been played was a low rumble that quickly turned into a roar of indignation. I stood at the bottom of the stairs watching the fallout. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. First the dust rises, then the structure buckles, and finally everything comes crashing down. Franklin Vance was the first to move. The silver-haired investor looked at Hunter with a mixture of disgust and pity. He signaled to his team with a sharp wave of his hand. They did not say a word. They simply turned their backs on the stage and began marching toward the exit. Hunter saw them leaving, and the panic finally overtook him. He scrambled down the stairs, tripping over his own feet in his haste. He ran after Vance, grabbing the sleeve of his expensive Italian suit. "Franklin, wait," Hunter pleaded, his voice cracking. "You have to listen to me. He is lying." The old man is confused. "I can fix this. I have other properties." Vance stopped. He ripped his arm away from Hunter's grip with such force that Hunter stumbled back. Vance brushed his sleeve as if he had been touched by something contagious. "Do not touch me," Vance said, his voice cold enough to freeze the champagne in the glasses nearby. "You brought me here under false pretenses, Hunter. You tried to defraud my firm with an asset you did not own. My lawyers will be in touch on Monday morning. And believe me, they will not be looking to invest. They will be looking to prosecute." Vance turned and walked away. That was the signal. The rest of the crowd followed him like a tide going out. The beautiful people in their silk dresses and rented tuxedos practically ran for the valet stand. They did not want to be associated with a failure. In this town, failure was a disease, and Hunter was patient zero. Hunter stood alone in the middle of the patio. He looked around wildly. The waiters were already clearing the tables. The band was packing up their instruments. The dream was dead. He spun around and saw me. I was still standing by the stage watching him. I had not moved an inch. His face twisted into a mask of pure hate. It was not the face of a son-in-law. It was the face of a cornered animal, a rat that knows the trap has snapped shut. "You!" he screamed. He charged at me. He moved fast, fueled by adrenaline and rage. He wanted to hurt me. He wanted to smash the face that had humiliated him. "You ruined everything," he shrieked, lunging for my throat. "You dirty old man. You ungrateful piece of trash." I did not flinch. I did not step back. I planted my feet just like I did when I was bracing for a heavy load in the shop. But before he could reach me, a heavy hand clamped down on his shoulder. It stopped him cold. It was one of the men from the warehouse, the creditor with the neck tattoo. He had stepped out of the shadows and intercepted Hunter like a linebacker stopping a running back. "I would not do that if I were you," the man growled. He spun Hunter around and shoved him backward. Hunter fell onto the stone patio hard. He scrambled backward on his hands and knees, looking up at the two large men towering over him. "Get away from me," Hunter yelled. "Call the police. Someone call the police." I walked forward slowly until I was standing over him. The two creditors stepped aside to let me pass. They knew who held the power now. "Call the police," I said, my voice calm. "Go ahead, Hunter. Tell them about the fraud. Tell them about the investors you lied to. Tell them about the money you owe these gentlemen." Hunter looked at his phone, which had fallen on the ground. He did not pick it up. He knew the police could not save him. "Why," he whispered, looking up at me with tears streaming down his face. "Why did you do this? I gave you a room. I gave you food. We are family." I looked down at him. I felt nothing. The pity I used to have for him was gone, replaced by the cold, hard certainty of justice. "You gave me a shed," I said. "You gave me scraps. And you planned to give me a death sentence in the desert. Do not talk to me about family, Hunter. You do not know the meaning of the word. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. You said I ruined you, I said. You said I burned the money. But you are wrong. I did not burn anything. I just moved it. I tapped the screen and held it out so he could see. It was a banking confirmation. I told you I bought your debt, I said. But I do not think you understand what that means. Hunter squinted at the screen. His eyes were blurry with tears. What does it mean? He choked out. It means I own you, I said. I knelt down so I was eye level with him. I wanted him to see the truth in my eyes. It means that every time you missed a mortgage payment, you were missing a payment to me. It means that every dollar you borrowed against this house to fund your fake lifestyle is now a debt you owe to Russell Hayes. Hunter shook his head. You cannot afford that, he stammered. You are a mechanic. You are nobody. I smiled. It was the smile of a man who had saved every penny for 40 years while people like Hunter spent money they did not have. I am a nobody with a fully funded 401k and a life insurance policy that my wife paid into for 30 years, I said. I am a nobody who knows how to save. And thanks to your bad credit rating, I bought your debt for 60 cents on the dollar. It was a bargain, Hunter. I stood up and brushed the dust off my tuxedo pants. Pacific Western Bank was happy to get you off their books, I continued. They saw a sinking ship. I saw an opportunity. Hunter looked at the house, the big white mansion that he loved more than his wife, the symbol of his status. You cannot take the house, he whispered. It is my home. It is not your home, I said. It is collateral, and you are in default. I turned to the two creditors who were watching with grim satisfaction. Gentlemen, I said, I believe this man owes you $40,000. The man with the tattoo nodded. That is right, Mr. Hayes, he said. Well, I said, I am afraid he does not have the cash. However, as the new owner of this property, I am going to need some renovation work done. I need this patio ripped out. I need that ridiculous fountain removed. And I need the pool filled in. The creditors looked at each other and smiled. We can do that, the man said. Send the invoice to Rusty Wrench LLC, I said. I will pay you for your labor. As for him, I pointed at Hunter, who was still on the ground. He is trespassing. Hunter scrambled to his feet. He looked at Jasmine, who was standing by the stage. She had not moved. She was frozen in shock, holding her empty glass. Jasmine, he screamed, do something. He is crazy. He is stealing our house. Jasmine looked at him. Then she looked at me. She saw the man she married a coward crying on the ground, and she saw the father she betrayed standing tall like a mountain. She dropped the glass. It shattered on the stones. He is not stealing it, Hunter, she said, her voice hollow. He bought it. Hunter gaped at her. Whose side are you on? He yelled. I am on the side of the truth, Jasmine said softly. And the truth is, we are broke. She turned and walked away toward the house. She did not wait for him. Hunter watched her go. He looked back at me. The fight went out of him. He slumped his shoulders. You cannot do this, Russell, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Where will I go? I looked at the gate where the last of the guests were driving away. The Mojave is nice this time of year, I said. Hunter flinched. He remembered. He remembered the plan he had made for me. I pulled the blue document out of my pocket again. You have 30 days, I said. That is the law. But if I were you, I would start packing tonight. Because on day 31, I am changing the locks. And I am not using a keypad code that you can guess. I am using a padlock. And I am keeping the key. I turned my back on him. I was done. There was nothing left to say. The engine was stripped. The parts were sorted. The junk was going to the scrapyard. I walked over to the bar where a half-empty bottle of expensive scotch was sitting. I poured a glass. My hand was steady. I took a sip. It tasted like victory. Behind me, I heard Hunter sobbing. It was a pathetic sound, the sound of a child who had finally been told no. The creditors stepped closer to him. You heard the man, the tattooed one said. You are trespassing. I did not look back. I looked out at the lights of Los Angeles twinkling in the distance below. It was a city of dreams and nightmares. For 3 days I had lived in the nightmare, but tonight I had woken up. I raised my glass to the empty patio. To the mechanic I whispered. The dominoes had fallen exactly as I planned. The last one had just tipped over, and the sound it made hitting the ground was the sweetest music I had ever heard. The last taillight of the last Bentley faded down the canyon road, leaving us alone in the wreckage of the gala. The wind had picked up, blowing the napkins and the fake flower petals across the stone patio like tumbleweeds in a ghost town. The silence was heavy. It pressed down on us. The only sound was the distant hum of the pool filter, the generator I had fixed just 2 days ago. It was running perfectly, keeping the water warm for a party that was never going to happen again. Hunter was still on his knees on the velvet carpet of the stage. His white tuxedo was stained with grass and dirt from where the creditor had shoved him. He looked small. Without the crowd, without the applause, without the lie, he was just a man in a rented suit with a negative bank account. Jasmine stood a few feet away from him. She was hugging herself, shivering in the night air. Her gold dress did not look like armor anymore. It looked like a costume. She looked from her husband to me, and I could see the calculation happening behind her eyes. She was trying to figure out if there was a way to fix this, if there was a way to spin this, if there was a way to keep the house. Hunter crawled toward the edge of the stage. He looked down at me. His eyes were red and swollen. "Russell," he croaked. His voice was gone. "Russell, please, we can work this out." I shook my head slowly. "Work what out, Hunter?" I asked. "There is no work to be done. The job is finished." He scrambled down the stairs. He tried to stand up, but his legs were shaking so bad he had to lean against the podium. "You cannot kick us out," he said. "You are family. You are Jasmine's father. You cannot make your own daughter homeless." I looked at Jasmine. She took a step toward me. She saw an opening. She saw the father who used to carry her on his shoulders. She thought she could manipulate that man one last time. "Dad," she said. Her voice was small. It was the voice she used when she was 6 years old and broke my favorite coffee mug. "Dad, please." Hunter made mistakes, big mistakes. But we learned our lesson. You scared us. You really scared us. She tried to smile. It was a watery, pathetic thing. "Okay, you made your point," she said. "You taught us a lesson. Now put the paper away, tear up the mortgage note. Let us go inside and have some tea and we can talk about a payment plan. We can pay you back, Dad, I promise." I looked at her. I looked at the desperation in her eyes. She still did not get it. She thought this was a negotiation. She thought this was a spanking, and then everything would go back to normal. She did not understand that I had not come here to punish her. I had come here to save her, and saving her meant destroying the life she thought she wanted. I walked over to the table where the unsigned deed was still lying. I picked it up and ripped it in half. The sound was loud in the quiet night. I ripped it again and again until it was confetti. I let the pieces fall to the ground. "There is no payment plan, Jasmine," I said. Hunter pushed himself off the podium. He stumbled toward me. "You have to listen," he begged. "I can get a job. I can consult. I know people. If you just give me 6 months, I can refinance. I can buy the note back from you." I laughed. It was a short, sharp bark of a laugh. "Refinance with what, Hunter?" I asked. "Your credit score is lower than the temperature in this garden. Your name is mud in this town. Franklin Vance is going to sue you for fraud on Monday morning. You are not going to be consulting. You are going to be defending yourself in court." I took a step closer to him. He smelled of sweat and fear. "And you are asking me to finance your defense," I said. "You are asking me to use my retirement money to keep a roof over the head of the man who tried to steal my legacy." I pointed a finger at his chest. It was a hard, calloused finger. "You wanted to put me in a home." "Hunter," I said, "you wanted to put me in a cheap state facility in the desert. You said it was perfect for me. You said I would fade away." Hunter flinched. He tried to back away, but he bumped into the table. "I was stressed," he stammered. "I did not mean it. You meant every word I said. And now you are going to know what it feels like. You are going to know what it feels like to have no control, to have someone else decide where you sleep and what you eat." I turned to Jasmine. She was crying silently now, tears cutting tracks through her makeup. "And you," I said softer this time, "you stood there, you let him say those things, you knew the plan, you were going to let him ship me off like a broken part." "Dad, I was scared," she whispered. "I know," I said. "You were scared of being poor. You were scared of losing this house. You were scared of having to work for a living. Well, Jasmine, you do not have to be scared anymore, because the worst has happened. The nightmare is here. You are poor, you are homeless, and you are going to have to work." She fell to her knees. She grabbed my hand. Her grip was tight, desperate. No, Dad, please, she sobbed. Where will we go? We have nowhere. I looked down at her. I remembered the day she was born. I remembered holding her in the hospital room, promising that I would always protect her. I promised I would never let anything hurt her. But sometimes protecting your child means letting them fall. Sometimes the only way to fix a bone that has healed wrong is to break it again. I pulled my hand away from her grip. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to pick her up, to tell her it would be okay to write a check and make the bad things go away. But I was a mechanic, and I knew that quick fixes do not last. I looked at her huddled on the ground in her gold dress that was worth more than my first car. I taught you how to ride a bike, Jasmine, I said. My voice cracked slightly, but I steadied it. I ran behind you, holding the seat until you found your balance. I taught you how to tie your shoes so you would not trip. I taught you how to calculate the load on a suspension bridge so you would know what was strong and what was weak. She looked up at me, her face a mask of misery. But I made a mistake. I said, I forgot to teach you one thing. I forgot to teach you how to choose the people you let into your heart. I forgot to teach you that you cannot build a life with a man who has no foundation. I looked at Hunter, who was cowering by the stage. You chose a man who is hollow, Jasmine, I said. You chose a man who defines himself by what he owns, not who he is. And because you chose him, you became hollow too. You let him fill you with his fear and his greed until there was no room left for the daughter I raised. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the blue bank document again. I cannot teach you that lesson anymore, I said. You are 32 years old. You have to learn it yourself. And the only way you are going to learn it is by hitting the ground. I held the paper out. This is the eviction notice, I said. Technically, I have to serve it to you by mail, but I wanted to give you a head start. Hunter stared at the paper. Where are we supposed to go? He whispered. I do not know, I said, and for the first time in my life, I do not care. That is a problem for you to solve. You are a genius, right, Hunter? You are a visionary. Use that vision to find an apartment you can actually afford. I turned to the two creditors standing by the bar. They had been watching the whole scene silently. They were big men who worked with their hands, men who understood respect. Gentlemen, I said. The tattooed man nodded. Mr. Hayes, he said. I am leaving now, I said. I am going to a hotel, a nice one. I am going to order room service and sleep in a bed that does not smell of pool chemicals. I gestured to the house. This property is now under the ownership of Rusty Wrench, LLC, I said. I would appreciate it if you would keep an eye on it for me until the locks are changed. Make sure nothing valuable leaves the premises. The furniture, the art, the electronics, it is all collateral. It stays with the house. The creditor cracked his knuckles. He looked at Hunter with a predatory smile. We will make sure nobody takes a toothpick, Mr. Hayes, he said. We will stay right here until the locksmith comes on Monday. Hunter went pale. He realized he was trapped. He was trapped in his own house with the men he owed money to, and he could not take anything with him. Thank you, I said. I looked at Jasmine one last time. She was still on her knees, but she had stopped crying. She was staring at the ground. She looked empty. Goodbye, Jasmine, I said. She did not answer. I turned and walked away. I walked down the stone path past the flickering fake candles. I walked past the infinity pool that looked like black glass. I walked past the pool house where I had slept on a lumpy couch and planned my revolution. I reached the front gate. The code was still 0000. I punched it in. The gate swung open. I stepped out onto the street. The air was different out here. It smelled of exhaust and jasmine flowers and freedom. I did not look back. If I looked back, I might turn into a pillar of salt. Or worse, I might turn back into a father who enables his children to destroy themselves. I walked down the hill toward the city lights. My tuxedo shoes clicked on the pavement. I was an old man walking alone in the middle of the night in a strange city. I had no car. I had drained my bank account. I had lost my family. But as I walked, I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It was not pain. It was not heavy. It was the feeling of an engine that had been rebuilt. The timing was perfect. The compression was high. The power was back. I took out my phone and dialed Veronica. It is done, I said. I heard her let out a breath on the other end of the line. Are you okay? Uncle Russell, she asked. I looked up at the moon. It was the same moon that shone over Atlanta, the same moon that Esther used to look at. I am better than okay, Veronica, I said. I am free. I hung up the phone. I kept walking. I had a long way to go, but for the first time in years, I knew exactly where I was heading. I was heading home, and I was leaving the trash behind. The iron gate clicked shut behind me. It was a mechanical sound, a final sound. I stood on the sidewalk of Crestview Drive with my old suitcase in my hand and the cool night air on my face. My tuxedo shoes felt tight against my feet, but my chest felt wide open. I took a deep breath. It smelled of jasmine flowers and exhaust fumes. It smelled like Los Angeles, but for the first time in 3 days, it did not smell like a cage. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. The screen lit up. It was Jasmine. She was calling. I watched the name flash on the screen. Daughter. It was a word that used to mean everything to me. It used to mean Saturday morning cartoons and teaching her how to change a tire and walking her down the aisle. Now it meant betrayal. It meant a woman who stood by and watched while her husband planned to bury me in the desert. I let it ring. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings. I did not press decline. I did not press answer. I just let it ring until it went to voicemail. Then I opened my contacts. I scrolled down to her name. My thumb hovered over the delete button. A mechanic knows that you cannot save a part that is rusted all the way through. If you try to weld it, the heat just melts the metal and makes the hole bigger. You have to cut it out. You have to replace it. I pressed delete. The name disappeared. I put the phone back in my pocket. I did not feel happy. I did not feel sad. I felt light. It was the lightness of a man who had finally put down a heavy load that he had been carrying for too long. A car pulled up to the curb. It was my Uber. It was a beat-up Toyota Camry, not a limousine. The driver was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. LAX. I said, tossing my suitcase in the back. You leaving town early? The driver asked, looking at my tuxedo in the rearview mirror. Party over. The party is over, I said, and I took the cake with me. We drove down the winding roads of Beverly Hills. I looked out the window at the mansions. I saw the lights in the windows. I saw the blue glow of televisions. I wondered how many other fathers were sitting in those houses being treated like ATMs by their children. I wondered how many of them had the courage to do what I did. We hit the highway. The traffic was light. The City of Angels was spread out before us, a grid of gold and white lights. It looked beautiful from a distance, but I knew the truth now. Up close, it was just concrete and desperate people trying to be someone they were not. I closed my eyes and thought about Atlanta. I thought about my porch. I thought about the smell of rain on hot asphalt. I thought about the shop. It was not my shop anymore. It belonged to the people now. It belonged to history. I smiled. I had given away my legacy to save my dignity. It was the best trade I ever made. When we got to the airport, I tipped the driver $50. Buy yourself a good dinner, I said. He looked at the bill like it was a winning lottery ticket. Thank you, sir, he said. God bless you. I walked into the terminal. The fluorescent lights hummed. The announcements over the intercom were garbled. It was chaos. But to me it felt like order. This was a machine I understood. Arrivals and departures, schedules and routes, mechanics and physics. I walked up to the ticket counter. The agent looked tired. She looked at my tuxedo and then at my worn-out suitcase. She looked confused. Heading home, she asked, "Yes, ma'am," I said. "One way to Atlanta." I handed her my credit card. It was the same card that Hunter had laughed at. The same card he said was not good enough for his lifestyle. "I want an upgrade," I said. "First class." She raised an eyebrow. "First class is expensive, sir," she said. I looked her in the eye. "I can afford it," I said. "I just bought a house in Beverly Hills for cash today. I think I can afford a legroom upgrade." She typed on her keyboard. She printed the boarding pass. "Seat 1A," she said, handing it to me. "Enjoy your flight, Mr. Hayes." I walked through security. I walked to the gate. I did not look at the newsstands. I did not look at the souvenir shops. I did not need a souvenir from this trip. I had the scars. That was enough. I boarded the plane. I turned left instead of right. I sat down in the wide leather seat. It was soft. It smelled of clean leather, not the stale chlorine smell of the pool house. The flight attendant came over. She was a young woman with a kind face. "Can I get you anything before takeoff, sir?" she asked. "Champagne." I shook my head. "No champagne," I said. "I have had enough fake bubbles to last a lifetime." "Do you have a good red wine?" "Something bold." Something that tastes like the earth. She smiled. I have a Cabernet that will knock your socks off, she said. Bring the bottle, I said. The plane pushed back from the gate. I felt the familiar vibration of the engine starting up. It was a GE90 engine. I knew the sound. It was a deep, powerful thrum that went straight to your bones. I closed my eyes and listened to the turbine spin up. I listened to the compressor stages engage. It was a symphony. We taxied to the runway. The pilot pushed the throttle forward. The plane surged. I felt the G-force pushing me back into the seat. Most people get scared during takeoff. They grip the armrests. They pray, but not me. I loved this part. This was the moment of truth. This was the moment when all the preparation, all the maintenance, all the checks paid off. You defy gravity. You leave the earth behind. We lifted off. The ground fell away. The lights of Los Angeles got smaller and smaller until they were just twinkling stars in a black ocean. I looked down at the city one last time. Somewhere down there in that maze of lights, Hunter and Jasmine were sitting in a house that did not belong to them. They were staring at an eviction notice. They were blaming me. They were crying. Let them cry. Tears are good for cleaning the eyes. Maybe now they would see the world clearly. Maybe now they would see that you cannot build a life on lies. The flight attendant brought the wine. She poured it into a real glass, not plastic. The liquid was dark and rich. I picked up the glass. I swirled it. I looked at the empty seat next to me. I imagined Esther sitting there. I imagined her wearing her Sunday hat, holding my hand. We did it, Esther, I whispered. We cleaned the house. I felt a tear run down my cheek. It was hot and salty. It was grief. I was grieving the little girl I used to carry on my shoulders. I was grieving the family I thought I had. But grief is like rust. You have to scrape it off before you can repaint. I wiped the tear away. I took a sip of the wine. It was good. It tasted like oak and blackberries and victory. I reclined the seat. I stretched out my legs. My back still ached from the lumpy couch in the pool house, but the pain was fading. I was 69 years old. I was alone. I had no children to care for me. I had no shop to go to on Monday morning. I was free. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. I saw an old man in a tuxedo, but he did not look tired anymore. He looked dangerous. He looked like a man you did not want to mess with. Happy birthday, Russell, I said to the reflection. You are not just a mechanic. You are the pilot now, and you can fly this plane anywhere you damn well please. I finished the wine. I closed my eyes. The hum of the engines was a lullaby. I fell asleep somewhere over the desert, leaving the ghosts in the sand where they belonged. When I woke up, I would be in Atlanta. I would go to the cemetery. I would put fresh flowers on Esther's grave. I would tell her the whole story. And then I would go get some breakfast. I was starving. And for the first time in a long time, I was going to eat in peace. I learned that family is not defined by the blood in your veins, but by the respect in your actions. For years, I thought being a good father meant giving until I had nothing left, but I realized that was not love, it was enabling. You cannot save someone who is determined to drown, and you certainly should not let them pull you under with them. Walking away from my daughter was the hardest repair I ever made, but it was necessary. My legacy is not a building or a bank account, it is my dignity, and that is something no one can ever take away from me again. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us share more stories like this. And I want to know from you in the comments, have you ever had to cut ties with a family member to save your own peace? Let me know down below. Stay strong and keep your engine running clean.